the maternal father of the Pokémon world. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226 Murals. On the wall of Between the Seals, Eminem saw a series of murals. Of course, it was said to be murals, but it was actually the wallpaper that was pasted later in the first painting. There are many small people dancing around the bonfire, and there are scattered small Pokémon around. It can be vaguely seen that they are Ladder, Bobo and the like. In the second painting, humans start to have some powerful Pokémon around them and start fighting some other Pokémon. Point in the third painting, some Pokémon with significantly larger proportions beat humans and ordinary Pokémon to the ground. The fourth painting depicts a human being wearing a strange mask. Because the lines are very simple, I can't tell what it looks like. It's just that Emu suspects that this is the beginning of the seal of the Whirlpool clan. And Eminem vaguely understood the source of the power of this seal because there is a huge snake-shaped Pokémon floating on the head of the masked little man. But compared with the snake, it is conspicuous because it floats out from the front half of the back. There are 3 pairs of tentacles, and there are spikes on the sides of the body. If it was someone else, they shouldn't be able to tell what kind of Pokémon it is. After all, Giratina origin form has never been observed by humans in this world. At least it has not been observed by modern humans, nor is it in the illustrated book. Point. But Eminem saw at a glance that this thing represented Giratina. Then on the 5th mural, 2 strong people appeared, and behind them, there were supergiant Pokémon who seemed to have been beaten to the ground. Point. These bosses are bigger than the boss Pokémon I saw before. And I feel that they are almost the same as the Giratina in the previous picture. Point. You must know that in this world, the size of the mythical beasts is mostly larger than that shown in Emu's past life illustration book, and most of them are very powerful. A small number of cute beasts like Cherubi are indeed pocket-sized. Point. If it is really drawn according to the scale, then these Pokémon are probably more than 10 meters high. Not just the ordinary boss Pokémon, which is only 2 or 3 times bigger. There are 9 such big Pokémon, from the big-tailed raccoon, the cat boss, the water arrow turtle, the hot monkey, all the way to the 9-tailed one. And beside Ninetales, I saw that the masked human was also there at this time, and the outline of Giratina origin form emerged from behind. On the 6th and last mural, there is a human being sitting on the head of the oversized leader Ninetales, as if he has been tamed. If the mural did not lie, Eminem suspected that the so-called seal actually used the power of Giratina, probably Giratina as the god of death, used to seal the boss Pokémon version of Seal. In addition, the content of the last 2 murals can also be compared with the legend compiled by Jinhuang City. In the legend, Senshou Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, after defeating 9 supergiant boss Pokémon, were assisted by the Uzumaki clan. There are some subtle differences in the specific types of Pokémon, but considering the age, this misinformation is really normal. Point. At the same time, Leixi, who was on the side, flew out with a cry of pain. I saw a ghost stone appearing on the ghost mask, smiling strangely. GG. After seeing Eminem looking at him, the ghost stone stared back with a grin. Point. But at this moment, before Genji in the shadow could react, Eminem suddenly felt something tremble in the backpack. Point. Then the ghost stone immediately retracted into the mask. Huh? What did you do? Leixi just came in again and saw this scene. Probably. It's the domineering spirit. Eminem didn't tell the truth this time. Point. Seeing Leixi looking at him suspiciously, Amu changed the subject and said, "Go pick it up and try again." Leixi heard the words and hesitated, but, seeing Leixi's thoughts, Amu shook her head and said, "It's useless for me to want this mask. I have a tendency to both poison and ghost. Counting, the poison tendency is even higher. It is impossible to let our lion worked hard to go from Mega to X form. Grass plus ghost is not stronger than grass plus poison. Moreover, Eminem feels that thick fat is more practical than ghost skin, so there is no need to pursue X-shaped Mega for the sake of rarity." Hearing this, Leixi stepped forward again to try to pick up the mask. After raising her hand, she hesitated for a moment, then grabbed the mask point this time. The ghost stone inside didn't come out at all. To be precise, the other party has already escaped. Genji and Eminem Shadow felt that, while the ghost stone was retracting, there were fluctuations similar to shadow space on the mask. Also, it is the fluctuation of the space centered when the submarine assault is launched. Ghost stone can't learn hidden assault. It's probably a function of the mask itself. Without the Pokémon attached to it, Leixi got the mask directly. Congratulations. Amu didn't know if it was an illusion, but she suddenly felt that Leixi, who was holding the mask, seemed to have changed her style of painting, and her face, which was originally gentle and stubborn, turned into a downright satisfied and arrogant HMPH. Kit, you're quite capable. Ah. Sorry. Leixi came over and hammered Emu's shoulder, but her expression froze for a moment, and then she changed to her usual style of painting, apologizing incessantly. Even not only the expression and look, Eminem felt that everything about her had changed, so she couldn't help but look up and down more. This is Eminem suspects that Leixi is probably controlled too much and has a dual personality. Of course, from the perspective of a ghost trainer, Leixi is quite normal. And at this moment, there was only a sound of footsteps accompanied by a crutch coming from the back door of between the seals. After hearing this, Leixi looked around while being nervous. Eminem has already guessed who is coming. After all, he only arrived in Xian town before, and the other party noticed the approach of the mask. Still know nothing. However, it was different from what Eminem had imagined. The old man who came over was a gray-haired, slightly stooped man with a cane. Most importantly, he was an old man with very kind facial features. Eminem originally thought that, as an old ghost trainer, Old Man Fuji should have the same style of painting as the old woman in Yaozen Hotel. It turns out that there are guests coming. Really? Then go inside by yourself. Do you want me to greet the old man? Fuji sounded like complaining, but his tone was very peaceful, giving people a feeling of intimacy. The painting style doesn't look like a trainer of the ghost department at all. Sorry, this mask. Leixi was still a little guilty and felt that the mask was wrong. But before Old Man Fuji could say anything, Leixi suddenly changed her expression. Not only did she lower her head to raise her chin, but her eyes became hanging, and she said fiercely, "I'll just accept it. Yes, you have no objection, Old Man Fuji." Not only did his attitude change drastically, but Eminem, who was paying attention this time, discovered it is indeed not as simple as dual personality. The clothes on her body also had subtle changes, which cannot be explained by dual personalities. Chapter 227 Special Pokeball. Eminem couldn't help staring at Leixi's opener. Elder Fuji seemed to have noticed something too. His eyes, which were originally squinted due to muscle relaxation, opened a little at this moment, nodded and said, "So that's how it is." But Leixi quickly changed back and apologized again and again. Leixi's dress is usually on the right lapel, that is, at the open front, with the right skirt on the bottom and the left side on top. But Eminem just discovered that when her second personality appeared, her clothes inexplicably changed to the opposite left lapel. Note 1, and Eminem remembered that in the previous exhibition hall, he had just seen the description of this kind of clothes. Usually when the deceased was wearing them, he would only wear them on the left lapel. Seem Leixi's second personality is indeed related to the ghost system, and it is not as simple as schizophrenia. Old Man Fuji also nodded slightly at this time, and then smiled and said to Leixi, who was apologizing, "Hahaha, it's okay. The masks here are originally intended to be given to those who are destined." But Old Fuji said, looking at Eminem, and said, "Can we talk about that mask? The one that Rabbi gave me? It's not bad. I'm said seriously." The Old Man Fuji did not specifically correct anything, but said to them, "You two can come and discuss in detail later. This mask is simply in the hands of Amu, and he doesn't know how to use it. If the Old Man Fuji, who seems to have profound attainments in the ghost department, has sincerity, Amu can consider it." The Old Man Fuji obviously agreed that Leixi and Eminem were together, and greeted them together to the last exhibition hall at the back. The further you go, the smaller the path becomes. The last section is simply a section of gravel road in the bamboo forest. Obviously, few people can go here at ordinary times. There are also many ghost type Pokémon in the bamboo forest. Genji UI reminded Armu point at the end. There is a wooden house that looks very old, but it is obviously repaired frequently and does not look dilapidated point on the map before. The name of the last exhibition hall was not marked. Only when Armu saw the plaque on it did he know the name of the last exhibition hall, 33 Faces Hall Point. After walking in with Mr. Fuji, Eminem found that the display racks here are very simple. There are only 33 pairs of masks on the display racks in the middle, upper and lower rows, with different heights, but Eminem instinctively felt that most of them were imitations. Although Eminem has just visited the Namiantang Museum for a day, it is a bit exaggerated to come to act as an appraiser. But maybe it is, because there are genuine products in Eminem's bag. When Eminem faced these masks, some instinctive judgments. What's more, the second mask from the left in the second row looks the same as the one in Eminem's bag, but it looks a little older. Fakes need to be aged. Eminem's is the real one, but it is the real thing that has passed through time. Seeing that Eminem had already looked at that one, the old man Fuji also said truthfully at this time, "That's right. The 33 masks here are the masks enshrined by the Whirlpool family for generations. 6 of them are also the masks of this. Only 6 items from that era in the museum. Well, as for the rest, it can't be said that they are all fakes. Like the previous Between the Seal mask, it obviously has special powers, but it is not from archaeology. But the other masks with the power of ghosts were carved by my students and me. As for the ones in the outer exhibition hall, they are just empty exhibits." Fuji old man explained. Point after that, the old man Fuji did not rush to negotiate with Eminem, but pointed out the 6 antiques to him. At this time, Eminem also noticed that these 6 sets of antiques were not only more dilapidated than old-fashioned, but also, the power of ghosts on them was actually very weak. You also feel it? After all, it's been so long. In fact, in terms of actual functions, these 6 sides are useless. Fuji said helplessly. That is to say, the mask that Rabbi saved for me should be the last usable vortex mask from that era. Armu said with a bright eye. Old man Fuji didn't rush to deny Eminem's words, but nodded and said, "That's right. But, do you know the real function of the vortex mask, Seal?" Armu really didn't know about it before, but just now in Between the Seals, I saw some. Old man Fuji shook his head at this time and said, "It's not completely wrong, but it's only a little bit right." Back then, the Uzumaki clan was famous for making Pokeballs, and they even made Pokeballs that could subdue the leader's Pokémon. People at that time called the Pokeball Seal, and the skill of making the Pokeball was also called the Seal technique at that time. Can't the boss Pokémon be subdued with ordinary Pokeballs? Amu was taken aback when he heard this. This is different from the game. The old man Fuji nodded and then asked Eminem, "Drive Jumu told you about the principle of the Pokeball?" Obviously he also knew that Dr. Jumu was Eminem's teacher. "I've said a few things, but I don't know much about it. I just know that the Pokemon ball is connected to another space and it can send Pokemon there in a sleeping state. During the period, human energy is needed to maintain it." Big just said what I know. That's right. So generally speaking, the modern mass-produced Pokeballs are essentially the same. Dr. Fuji probably understood how much Eminem knew. Modern? Then in ancient times. Eminem heard the overtones. It doesn't need ancient times. In fact, there are also special Pokeballs being made now. It's just that in ancient times, the Vortex family had already mastered this technology. The principle is actually very simple. Since it is maintained by human energy, then use the method of overdrawing human energy to make the Pokeball show a stronger binding force. Of course, this kind of Pokeball needs to be tailor-made, and now it is also a contraband in all major leagues. Not only is it a great burden on the trainer itself, but it will inevitably be suspected of abusing and imprisoning Pokémon. Fuji old man explained. Armu was stunned when he heard that. So this kind of Pokeball is not contradictory to what Mr. Jumu said. The essence of all kinds of Pokeballs is the same. Wait, those masks? Eminem was puzzled again at this moment. These masks are made of cone trees, so although they look different, they can also be regarded as a special kind of elf ball. Mr. Fuji explained. No, I want to ask. Since it is custom made, then these 33 masks, no one can use them now? Eminem couldn't help asking point, but the old man Fuji shook his head again and said, no, among the seals made by the Uzumaki clan, these 33 sides are also the most special. Although after the boss Pokémon is really sealed, the seal is still consumed. However, when these 33 masks are used to activate the seal, it is not the sealer himself who bears the consumption, but Giratina. For some reason, these 33 sides are not only special seals, but more importantly, they symbolize the promise with Giratina. When using them, you can use Giratina's part strength. The old man Fuji's words corresponded to the Giratina origin form that Eminem had recognized before. Note 1. There is an Easter egg in this setting. In the first version of the game, Leiji's clothes were inexplicably left lapel. However, in the later game versions and animations, they were corrected. It was the normal right lapel, and became the only non-main character wearing a modified character. Chapter 228, Choice. After listening to the old man Fuji's explanation, Eminem also probably understands what is going on with the seal and sealing technique of the Uzumaki clan. The vortex mask, that is, the seal itself, is equivalent to a special Pokeball point. If it's just an ordinary mask, it's just the King Kong seal, overdrawing one's own energy and being able to use the power of one's own ghost type Pokémon to forcibly subdue the boss Pokémon point, and the most special 33 sides of the vortex are equivalent to Gal's sealed, able to summon Giratina, or part of Giratina's power, to forcibly subdue the leader Pokémon. Amu also asked Mr. Fuji what he thought about the Giratina origin form on the mural, but Mr. Fuji didn't know what the origin form was, and he also didn't understand why Giratina was painted like that there. So he knew it was Giratina, or he summed it up from side clues. So, seal shouldn't only be able to target boss Pokémon, right? Eminem felt that it should also be effective against ordinary Pokémon, or even more effective. No, if the target is an ordinary Pokémon, it can't be said to be useless, but it's almost like a forced capture. Maybe it will break free and escape at some point. Fuji old man retorted, huh? Could it be that the boss Pokémon can't get out of the subdued state? Amu was taken aback when he heard this. At least it's difficult. Otherwise, the so-called forced subjugation is just a temporary trap for a period of time, which doesn't make much sense. Fuji old man explained. Why shouldn't seal be similar to the current Pokeball while maintaining the state of subjugation? Amu was puzzled. Who knows? Generally speaking, when a Pokémon is in a Pokeball, it is sleeping in a different space. If it is very dissatisfied, or too hungry, or its life is dying, it will wake up and be automatically ejected. What do you think? Do you know? Old man Fuji said, and looked at Eminem. Eminem nodded upon hearing this. This is the principle of Pokémon forcibly breaking free from the Pokeball, and why sometimes a Pokémon that is seriously injured cannot receive the Pokeball. Because of that kind of injury, it enters the sleep status, can't delay death. If you fight normally, you won't be injured so badly. Therefore, there is a speculation that the problem of the boss Pokémon itself will cause them to fall into a deeper sleep than ordinary Pokémon in a different space. In this way, it makes perfect sense in theory. Cough cough. Of course, Jumu told me this guess. Fuji old man said, and added a little embarrassed point. Eminem suspects. He suddenly remembered that he was a student of teacher Jumu, so he added this sentence so as not to be exposed by Jumu in the future. At this time, Eminem can also see that Mr. Fuji and Mr. Jumu seem to communicate frequently. It's also natural to think about it. After all, old man Fuji has a lot of research on the seal technique of the Uzumaki family, while Dr. Jumu studies the Pokeball, and the fields of the two are closely related. So, you should understand, right? The vortex mask you got is indeed very rare. Because of the power of the rabbi, sometimes it retains the appearance of 1,000 years ago. But, in essence, it no longer has the function of 1,000 years ago. Old man Fuji emphasized point indeed. Eminem also understood what he meant point in this way. The biggest effect of this mask is actually the contract with Giratina. The Kato family should also want to use the power of Giratina to temporarily trap Rabbi point. Mythical beasts must be able to break free from Pokeballs, and they are easier to break free than ordinary Pokemon. There are many examples of this. There are always people who want to kill and pick up corpses when the beasts are injured, and they are basically killed afterward. But there are always villains who feel that they are the chosen ones. Point it's just that the Kato family is more unlucky than these villains, and the first step fails, and they don't even have the chance to use the mask point. And although this mask has been preserved until now, but Giratina is not AI, although I don't know what agreement Giratina has with the Uzumaki clan, but holding a mask from thousands of years ago, you want Giratina to lend you strength, not to mention that this long expired mask is still preserved with the power of Rabbi. Humans know very little about Giratina, they only know that it is the supreme god of reversing the world. According to legend, it can hold down the god of time Dialga and the god of space Borkia. 2 beatings, that is to say, at least know that Giratina is much more powerful than Shirabi. Use this mask to call Giratina. Because of its violent temper in the legend, the most likely result is to be cut by its gods, and then, it is very likely that the rabbi will inevitably be cut. So, you understand, right? The secret of this mask is actually not that valuable. Old man Fuji said slowly. Point obviously, he knows very well that in the minds of young people like Eminem, secrets of ancient mysterious items are often of extremely high value. Even if they cannot be realized, or there is no way to use them, they will overestimate them. The value of such items in this way. It is better to speak clearly. Then, you always want this mask because Eminem never thought too bad of anyone, but he didn't believe anyone at first sight either. Although it can't be used to call Giratina, there is indeed a source of Giratina's ghost power on it. Even if it's just a ray, it is also a reference for my breakthrough in Pokémon. Fuji the old man spoke the truth. Point well, only this kind of boss's Pokémon is equipped with breakthrough. Eminem guesses that it breaks through the ghost system attribute level. Like ordinary Pokémon, it can only be said to be growth point, and Eminem's Pokémon, even Genji UI, is still far from needing to learn from this level of power. So, I don't want your mask for nothing. Even if you want to try it, I can teach you how to use it, and let you call Giratina. After that, it's just an empty mask. You have to donate it for free to Zeoen Town. Of course, the premise is, if you can do anything else at that time, in this way, what Zeoen Town can get is only an antique, and old man Fuji will not pay more, and if you hand over the mask to me directly, I can give you all the sealing techniques of the Uzumaki clan that I have researched so far. But you have to promise me one thing, you teach those who are not allowed to use this to make vortex masks. Fuji old man said seriously. Point obviously, the latter is what old man Fuji wanted Amu to choose, but Amu didn't understand this condition. Chapter 229 Recruitment. Can't make masks? Amu raised his voice. What kind of condition is this? If you can't use it after learning it, what can you do with it? That's right. Apostrophe sealing doesn't have to be in the form of a mask, it's just that the Uzumaki people are used to doing it. I just want to keep the Uzumaki characteristics of Zeoen Town. Fuji old man explained. Point it was only then that Eminem understood that he didn't want to compete with Zeoen Town for the title of Vortex Mask after learning it, and it wasn't to restrict its actual use. Point. But Amu still didn't understand and asked, but now there is no boss Pokémon, so learning this doesn't help much, right? Although, judging from the previous situation of between the seals, these seals themselves have some small functions, but the main functions have no target to be used. If it is used to forcibly subdue ordinary Pokémon, it will not only fail to keep it, but also involve legal issues. Who knows? What if there is still a boss Pokémon? Anyway, that guy Jumu really wants it. Old man Fuji didn't care about Eminem's doubts, and Amu also heard that. In fact, the old man Fuji is sure this thing is what Mr. Jumu wants. Before you were old, have you talked to Mr. Jumu? Amu couldn't help asking. I didn't tell you this, you guessed it yourself. Jumu said he didn't want to interfere with your decision, so he didn't let me tell you. After Mr. Fuji knew about the Whirlpool mask and Eminem's identity, he actually went to Jumu immediately and put forward conditions. However, Jumu himself is a person with a wild temperament and a stubborn temper. Since the mask belongs to Armu, he is not willing to make decisions for Armu, even if Armu is his student. When Armu talked about the mask to Mr. Jumu only said that he could go to Zeon Town to have a look later. Maybe he could know the purpose, and he only needed to take a few pieces of Shakulus nails to study. Old man Fuji obviously also has a cunning side. At this time, he took advantage of the situation and told Eminem that Dr. Jumu actually wanted the research materials of sealing technique. This also made Eminem make a decision faster. Reached a deal with Mr. Fuji. Mr. Fuji can use this mask to guide his Pokémon to break through, and in the future, there will be another authentic one in the 33 Faces Hall. Even because the authentic product is preserved just like the old fake, it can be put outside for the public to appreciate in the future, which is also a great thing for Zeon Town. Of course, Eminem also bargained a bit. By the way, I asked the old man Fuji for scales of the Thorn Dragon King. As the name suggests, it is the scales of the Thorn Dragon King, which can be used to catalyze the evolution of the Sea Thorn Dragon. Zeon Town is also facing the sea, so there should be high quality Thorn Dragon King scales. For this additional condition, Mr. Fuji was a little taken aback and agreed on behalf of the Zeon Town office. And the Zeon Town office will raise funds as soon as possible. Of course, this is for Xiaoxia. Her Sea Thorn Dragon has not yet evolved. After leaving the Namiantang Museum, Emmett asked Lee Jaya, how about we go back to the Pokémon Center first? During the meal, let's talk about the research and development representative. I don't live in the Pokémon Center. After all, I'm already 24 years old, and the Pokémon Center won't give me discounts. Lee Jaya said faintly. Sorry, I forgot. The friends who usually act together are all around my age. Mew thought about it, and in order to show his sincerity, he still didn't go to the Pokémon Center to grab a free room, but asked, which hotel do you live in? I haven't settled down since I arrived in Zeon Town. Open a room there, Lee Jaya pinched the mask in her hand, thinking that the reason why Eminem came here as soon as she arrived in Zeon Town was indeed because Sister King Mui was worried about herself, so she didn't sigh and continued to politely say, it's a family called Zeon Town. Other people's hotel, come with me. The two hailed a taxi and found on Emu Road that Zeon family and Zeon Gym were in the same direction. In terms of living conditions, the Pokémon Center may be better, Lee Jaya reminded. It's okay. I just want a challenge for the 7th badge, and it's convenient to be closer to the gym. Eminem said immediately. Rika, well, the 6th one is from me, here, to take. Ligia, you are also 24, have you ever worked as a gym trainer? Amu looked like a local boss. As soon as he opened his mouth, he felt like he had been complained 8 times on the recruitment platform. Lee Jaya wanted to curl her lips, but in the end she valued etiquette and overwhelmed her desire to complain about Eminem. She just smiled and said nothing. Now that you go to other grass type gyms, I'm afraid they won't take you in as a gym trainer. I have a suggestion, Eminem said while pretending to be very mysterious. R/U002060 representative, so what do you want to develop? Lee Jaya asked directly. This research and development is still to be studied, Eminem said seriously. Rika, I heard from my mother that there is a kind of pharmacy research institute that usually does nothing but swindles funds. When the results are about to come out, they come up with some patchwork things to deal with investors. Lee Jaya said very politely. When he said this, he didn't look at Eminem at all. No, how can I be cheating money? I already have a long-term goal, but only a short-term profit goal. I have to think about it. You can also give me your opinion later. Eminem said indifferently. Seeing Lexi's puzzled expression, Eminem said the idea of imitating vanilla without any hesitation. Of course, the specific situation was told in Lexi's room. After arriving at Zion's house, otherwise, the driver still needs to be careful. What if it is accidentally reported? After listening to what Eminem said, Lexi temporarily agreed. Originally, she didn't have much place to go. Although as an expert pharmacist, it is not a problem to live anywhere, but Lexi's growth environment is destined to make her not want to be completely independent, and even if only her own words, it is completely independent. Don't know what to do. The reason why she came to Zion town was because she wanted to visit her father's hometown. Then she was attracted by Nami Antang's mask, and after that, she didn't know what to do. Even if it's just as a mask reward, she doesn't mind Eminem sending her. The only concern before was if it's really a purely fraudulent project. Lexi really doesn't dare point under Hanamaru's teaching. Lexi may not have a strong sense of justice, but her courage is definitely small enough. It's just that she is timid, which is different from Xiaoxia. Lexi has no fear of ghosts and ghost type Pokémon. After all, she is a ghost type trainer herself. This should be inherited from her father. Hanamaru is a grass type trainer, and Lexi also tended to grass type under the guidance of her mother at the beginning. But when she developed a tendency to poison type, she quickly began to develop from poison type, entering the ghost system. Even Lexi suspected that she might be born with ghost attributes. After all, since she was a child, she would occasionally have uncontrollable convulsions. Eminem didn't expect that it would be so smooth. I had just arrived in Zion town, and in less than a day, I found Lexi and the research and development representative. So that night, Amu made an appointment with Xiaoxia to meet in Hualan City on August 1st. As for the information obtained from Mr. Fuji, Eminem passed it directly to Mr. Chumu, and then asked Mr. Chumu to make an easy to understand version, and send it back to himself. The information of Mr. Fuji is very messy and esoteric. Don't mention it at all, and Eminem can't understand it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230 Special Training in the Coffin. August 1st. It's a bit too early. I already have the 8th badge. I think it's enough to go on August 24th. Xiaoxia doesn't want to go to Hualan City early. No, it should be said it looks like he doesn't really want to go back to Hualan City sooner. And rookie competition in Kanto starts on August 25th and lasts for 3 days. After that, the preliminaries will start on August 28th, and the official competition will start on September 1st. If she only arrived in Hualan City on August 24th, Xiaoxia really didn't intend to stay longer for a day. No matter how you say it, August 24th is too late, in case there are more people queuing up for the challenge. Eminem shook his head again and again. Isn't the curator your senior sister? Xiaoxia said in a tone of we can jump in the queue through the back door. Slim Shady. Actually, I was in Zion town, and I got a scale of the Thorn Dragon King. Amu released the bait. Then, see you in Hualan City on the 5th, not on the 7th. Xiaoxia said after a moment of hesitation. Under the temptation of scales of the Thorn Dragon King, it still has to be pushed for a few more days. But think about it better. This is nearly 20 days in advance. Amu didn't know whether it should be said that Xiaoxia didn't want to go home too much, or that the temptation of scale of Thorn Dragon King was too great. Amu himself still wanted to go to Hualan City earlier, not because Amu wanted to challenge the Hualan gym sooner, but because of the size of the town in Zion town. There was no battle club, and it was not very convenient to train Pokémon. As for the Zion town gym, although it is a ghost type gym, that is difficult for most trainers. For Eminem, no matter what the attributes, the 7th badge is not difficult, let alone Eminem himself. Ghost Pokémon. After all, Eminem's current strength Pokémon is generally level 40 or 50, and the individual value and growth value are very good. Except for Cassie, who is the army soldier, all of them have a high race value, and all members are elite. The stronger ones have more than 40,000 fighting power, which is firmly at the level of being shortlisted for the official competition, and even many champions of the rookie competition are no more than that. There is already a possibility of winning the championship. Even in the presence of badges, the possibility of winning the championship is not high, but 8 badges are not normally a challenge point. Just because the 8th badge is a test arranged by teacher Jumu, the 3 senior sisters will definitely not use the standard of the normal 8th badge to ask Eminem. Instead, I want to check for teacher Jumu to see if the junior brother is lazy and successful, so after Army went to Hualan City. She would not be in a hurry to challenge for the badge, but would train her for a month first, and then apply for the challenge on the 24th and 5th. Xiaoxia was right about this. After making an appointment with Xiaoxia to go to Hualan City, Eminem made an appointment to challenge Xiao and Townjin Point, but just when Armu was going well, as if in order to balance his luck, Lexi called at night to remind Armu to comfort him recently. Isn't it a practice match? Eminem heard that QB must have lost. That's right. During the day in Cunan High School, we organized a practice match. How about the result? It's just a little short. That's why it's very depressing. Lexi also had a somewhat uninterested tone point. As soon as Armu heard this, she immediately asked her to explain the process so that she could comfort Coffin afterwards. Ryoko. In short, at the last moment, QB had already taken the lead with a header from the turban bastard point. However, just when the victory was about to be settled, Cunan's counterattack in the last few seconds caught QB by surprise, and he was overtaken in the end. The scoring of the football basket is also a 2-point and 3-point system point. Although it was only a practice match, the team members were still hit hard by the feeling of seeing that the victory was already achieved, but missed point as a foreign aid. Coffin. I feel very depressed. After hearing the news, Armu went to a nearby exchange site overnight and exchanged the Coffin back point. After that, I watched the basketball game video with it all night. Every game is lore at the last minute. Coffin. Look, this kind of situation is still very common. Coffin. Ahem. It's not that common to say it's common, but it can indeed be used as a trump card to defeat a powerful enemy. Coffin. Remember the feeling of failure this time, and let the opponent be so depressed in the future. Coffin. By the way, Eminem also took a look at the training results of the Coffin. The growth of the Coffin has increased by about 2 levels, and sure enough, doing what you like, you will grow extraordinarily fast. As for the overflowing growth value, they basically focus on physical strength and speed, and Eminem has no objection to this. Although if you only consider the battle for Determine, physical strength is not a high priority. But for basketball players, Determine will not change with transformation, and it is not high in itself. Physical strength is regarded as a weak item. This is not only a matter of the ability to bear damage, but also related to durability. Point. The football game is divided into 4 quarters, 25 minutes each, and the confrontation is very intense. If the physical strength is too weak, it may not be enough to play 1 quarter. Pokémon battles are often not so long. The concept of growth value in the cultivation of Pokémon in this world is very similar to the effort value in the game. It is an acquired attribute improvement outside the level point. However, unlike games, not all Pokémon of any level can practice a fixed value of effort value, but as a level increases, the range of growth value becomes larger and larger. If the growth value can be maintained at the level of level /2%, it often means that the Pokémon's potential is still sufficient and can continue to grow. If the growth value is low, it will be difficult to increase the level. For level 100 Pokémon, the growth value is at least 30% and usually reaches 40%. If it can reach 50%, basically there will be no bottleneck before the full level point. That is to say, as the level of growth increases, the growth value is gradually overflowing, and the growth value in this world is actually very different point. After receiving basketball training, Coffin began to focus more on the growth of physical strength. You said you want to receive special training? Do you want to memorize more transformation forms? Eminem's animal perception made him perceive the Coffin's thoughts immediately. You mean to be inferior in the confrontation of absolute strength? Army also understood the meaning of the Coffin at this time point. Indeed, Coffin's current 2 transformation forms, a Genji UI with high speed and high special attack, and a Reaper's Coffin with low speed and high defense, have advantages in long range support, long range interception, and defense, but direct force confrontation is required if so, it is weaker. If you want to talk about a ghost type Pokémon with fast speed and great power, that's Duolang Boruto, but it's a quasi-sacred beast in the Galar area, so you can't count on it for the time being. If you give up the speed requirement, Leixi seems to have a rotten wood demon. Let me ask for you. Chapter 231 Shirley. It seems that for the basketball game, the form of the rotten wood demon is not suitable. Leixi said, looking at the disappointed coffin. Leixi agreed and asked the coffin to learn how to transform from her rotten wood demon. The decayed wood demon, like the pumpkin monster, is a grass plus ghost Pokémon. However, in comparison, the rotten wood monster is more aggressive than the pumpkin monster in terms of race value distribution, which means it is stronger. The confrontation in the basketball field is mainly based on collisions, so strength and weight are more important than double defenses. The effect of double defenses is often used to block the ballpoint, but Eminem still takes it for granted. The rotten wood demon is quite strong, but with a trend-like body, his movements are obviously not flexible enough. Coffin gave up the plan to transform into a rotten wood demon after a little contact with Leixi's rotten wood demon. I think if you're looking for strength and flexibility, and if it's ghost type, Cursed Doll is a good choice. It not only focuses on strength, but also has good speed. The doll-like body is also easy to move around. Leixi gives suggestions. Curse the doll. I always feel that the race is worth. Eminem still hesitated. The total racial value of the cursed doll is only 455 points. Although the physical attack racial value is as high as 115 points, it still feels a bit disadvantageous. The Mega Stone that curses the doll is relatively easy to see. Ricardo mentioned. Eminem's eyes brightened when he heard the words. Indeed, if Mega evolves once, the racial value of the cursed doll will be 555 points, which is already a very impressive value, and the increase of 100 points, 50 points are more concentrated allocated on physical attack. The power of the Mega Queen is extremely outstanding in this way, not only in terms of basketball, but also in the battle. If you encounter a target that is extremely resistant to special attacks, but weak in physical attack defense, Coffin can also transform into a cursed doll to blast kill that cursed doll. I haven't. Leixi said, I'm just making a suggestion. Slim Shady. However, in the Zeon gym, there should be gym trainers with cursed dolls. If you ask them well, maybe the other party will agree to let Coffin study for a while. Leixi reminded. Of course, it would be disingenuous to just please, and you have to pay something anyway. You can talk to Mr. Fuji, by the way. After all, the current curator is loyal, and he is still a disciple of Mr. Fuji. As for the Mega Stone that curses the doll, although it is relatively common among the Mega Evolution Stones, since it is a Mega Stone, it still takes some effort to find it. I can only ask more, and try my luck in the future. It's just that with this growth expectation, Eminem immediately doesn't dislike the fact that the race value of the cursed doll is too low, even though he doesn't have the Mega Stone of the cursed doll at all. The target transformed by divers can also Mega Evolve, and even some powerful divers can directly transform into Mega form, but doing so often consumes a lot of energy. Just when Eminem set special training goals for Coffin, the Zhenghu Research Institute near the Hulan Lighthouse in the suburbs of Hulan City welcomed a group of special guests. Welcome, Dr. Shaho. I hope our joint development experiment will go well this time. I'm the director here, Masaki. Masaki, with seaweed green hair, warmly greeted several people at this time. However, the middle-aged man he met said awkwardly at this time, No, Dr. Zhenghu, you mistook the person. This is Dr. Zabayo. I'm just delivering the goods. Position, revealing a young woman behind. Even if it weren't for the overly serious expression and the old white coat, young woman is not enough to describe her youth. It should be girl. It's just that there is really no girlishness in temperament. Hello, Dr. Zhenghu. I have read several of your papers on Pokémon Spirit Link. I hope this time our research project can inspire each other. Shaho, with short brown hair, stepped forward and took the initiative to break embarrassed. I'm really sorry. I didn't expect Dr. Shaho to be so young. I read the article about the idea of the influence of Pokemon's evolution on its spirit. I thought it would be an older researcher. It seems that I'm older. Masaki, who was only about the same age as Dr. Sakuragi, was also polite at this time. Zenghu is very happy. This time, he has received an invitation from a research institute in the Carlos area and will conduct joint research in the future. It was the paper he published which attracted the attention of the other party, and, indeed, Zenghu found that some ideas and technologies of the other party can also improve the research and development that he is doing. Therefore, I gladly agreed to this cooperation. It's just that I didn't expect Dr. Zibeo to be so young. No wonder Zenghu felt strange before. With his knowledge, how could he be so unknown in the circle, it seems. Is it because you are too young? Drive. Zaho also reloaded this time. In addition to the necessary equipment being transported, he also brought over a dozen assistants. Zenghu suspected that a research institute had already been mobilized. When Zenghu was arranging their accommodation, one of the researchers, a tall and strong one, and a tall and thin one, when they passed by him, gave Zenghu a feeling that he was not close, and at this time they were wearing sunglasses and masks. To be honest, Zenghu still felt that compared to these two, the delivery man was more like a researcher. Of course, this time Zenghu didn't judge people by their appearances anymore. It's just that he didn't have much contact with the two of them. Transferring human consciousness to Pokémon. Brother, isn't this guy's research really fantastic? The tall and strong researcher asked the tall and thin researcher. Oh, then I have to ask our Dr. Zibeo. The tall, thin long-haired male researcher with straight blonde hair sneered. At this time, when the three of them were alone, they couldn't tell that they were a research team at all. The two assistants looked more like Dao than the other, with the look of I kill people without blinking an eye, and Shaho himself had a cold expression on his face. What's wrong? Surely, it's hard for me to use my real name once, but I'm not used to it. Jin Shangzi changed his words. Where's my sister? There are other tasks, also in Hualan City. After this time, you can meet each other. Jin Shangzi said in a deep voice. The tall and strong assistant complained again at this time. Really? Do researchers have to dress like this? I still prefer black. The white coat seemed to make him very uncomfortable. Sometimes, fat may not be shown by the color of the clothes. Zibeo complained coldly from the side. The tall and strong assistant was very angry. Okay, vodka, let's do what we should do. Jin Shangzi called out the other party's name, or it was a code name. Don't worry, brother. Although there are many people in this institute, it seems that there are no experts. Vodka had a cruel smile on his face at this moment. Jin, don't do unnecessary things. My real research won't be discovered by Zenghu. I just borrowed his research results. Zibeo said hastily. It would be great if this is the case. We are just in case. It would be better if we don't need it. After all, Zenghu is not an unknown person, and we don't want to provoke the Quartz Alliance if possible. Jin Chang, known as Jin Straight, at this moment he stifled the cigarette and said. Obviously they are planning something dangerous. The so-called cooperative research project is not as simple as Zenghu imagined. Chapter 232. Zenghu. It's so slow. What are you doing? In the end, you arrived a day late. Xiaoxia said angrily when she saw Amu. That's right. It was August 8th in the blink of an eye, a day later than the time that Eminem and Xiaoxia had initially agreed upon. Eminem came to Hulan City. A week ago, Eminem had successfully challenged the Ziyuan Gym and won the 7th badge. But, after that, he specially practiced in the Ziyuan Gym for a short week. Eminem already has a talent for ghosts, and with the recommendation of Old Man Fuji, there is no problem in staying in the gymnasium to practice. And Eminem's main practice is to let the coffin learn to transform into a cursed doll. I'm sorry, it just happened that coffin was just a little bit short of learning how to transform into a cursed doll. So I stayed for an extra day. Amu repeatedly apologized. In fact, I already told Xiaoxia the day before yesterday, but Xiaoxia was still very angry, mainly because after returning to Hualan City, Xiaoxia was restless all the time, and she would be angry for no reason. By the way, Xyloxia, Yuanzi, this is Ligia. At this time, Amu introduced Ligia to the two, mainly to Yuanzi. Yuanzi and Xyloxia had only met Ligia from a distance before. Although Xyloxia and Ligia were both second generation museums, Ligia was usually viewed very strictly. On the contrary, Xyloxia was not familiar with her, much less like you can play like apricot. Anne. After all, there is still an age difference of 8 years between the two, isn't there? Expert. Pharmacist. Mom must have nothing to say this time. Yuanzi said with high spirits. By the way, Sonoko, can you help me find out if the Suzuki group has cursed doll megastone? I can. Before Amu finished speaking, Yuanzi said first, don't worry, I can write it in the research and development requirements. He said and gestured a thumbs up. Rika. Ligia regretted it a bit. Is this research and development representative really serious? Don't you want to make false accounts? No, it's not necessary. Or know of a familiar trainer who has cursed dolls capable of mega evolution. It's okay if you are willing to let the coffin learn for a period of time. I can pay for it. Although Eminem didn't have much money, he is an expert pharmacist. There will always be money if you want to use it. The divers in this world, in addition to transforming and using the corresponding mega stones to perform mega evolution, can also directly transform into the form after mega evolution. It's just that the latter consumes more physical strength, and Ditto's physical strength has always been weak, so it is difficult to last. However, if the coffin is going to develop into a full-bodied basket, it not only exercises its physical strength, but also transforms into a cursed doll. After taking a taxi, Amu heard Xyloxia report that it was the Pokémon Center. Huh? Are you going to the Pokémon Center? Eminem asked suspiciously. Yes, what else? Isn't your home here? Eminem was also surprised. Although it is free, there is no need to live in the Pokémon Center without going home, right? Although the qualifications of the official gymnasium are gone, the gymnasium itself is its own property. It just changed from an official gymnasium to a private gymnasium, and it is still a big business. Hey, that old man, is he still immersed in the sadness of being deprived of his official gym qualification? I don't want to go back and see him cry. Xyloxia said harshly. Seeing Ligia's surprised expression, Amu whispered to her, look, this is running away from home. From the rearview mirror, I saw Xyloxia, who was sitting in the co-pilot, slapping me, so Amu coughed twice and changed the subject. By the way, where are Xyadolin and Conan? After Eminem asked himself, he regretted it. Where do I care about them? I wouldn't be looking for them anyway. I went to find Uncle Kagoro, and it just so happened that Uncle Kagoro came to Hulan City. Yuanzi replied without any other thoughts. Guys, it's back together again. Afterwards, Eminem didn't think much about it, and first opened a room at the Pokémon Center and opened a room for Ligia, but there was no discount. By the way, when are you going to challenge your 3 senior sisters? When Xyloxia talked about the 3 senior sisters, she still had some resentment. After all, they were other people's children. The reason why he ran away from home was that the final fuse was a quarrel with the owner of Baoan Pavilion, and Baoan used the 3 sisters to compare with Xyloxia. At least after the 20th, I'll prepare for it and finally settle down. After Eminem has challenged the Hualan Gymnasium, he will basically be ready to participate in this year's newcomer contest in the Kanto area. Then, I won't wait for you, I will challenge them tomorrow. Xyloxia said aggressively. Huh? Didn't you challenge the 8th badge? Eminem asked wonderingly. If you go to challenge the gym, you won't see the 3 Hualan sisters. Isn't it more imposing to say that? Is it not possible? Xyloxia said a little maniacally. Seeing Xyloxia glaring at him, Amu immediately shook his head. But after that, Eminem still asked, aren't you waiting for the sea thorn dragon to evolve? As soon as Amu saw Xyloxia, he had already given her the scales of the Thorn Dragon King. Speaking of, the current Hualan Gymnasium is presided over by the 3 sisters of the grass type, and in terms of attributes, it restrains Xyloxia, who is inclined to the water type. If Xyloxia can get the 8th badge in the Hualan Gymnasium that restrained herself, it means that her strength should be enough to advance to the official competition, and even have a hard time in the official competition point, but relatively, if you are not prepared enough, it is very likely that the ship will capsize. I'll train first. Zyraksha didn't get angry with herself either, although the gymnasium can be challenged repeatedly. When challenging the Hualan gymnasium, Zyraksha doesn't want to lose even once. Aren't you going to challenge the Hualan gym tomorrow? Yuanzi said with some disappointment. Zyralan is not free these 2 days. Her original vacation arrangement was to watch Zyraksha gym duel. If it was for training, Yuanzi didn't need to make trouble. Zyraksha also knew why Yuanzi was disappointed and immediately said, "No, when I train Seathorn Dragon, I will not go to the battle club. Pokémon in the water are best trained in the sea. Tomorrow we will go to China Blue Lighthouse. There is also a beach resort over there. Well, aquatic Pokémon are basically seawater and freshwater take all. Then you go. I'll go to the battle club." Eminem is not interested in the beach or anything. But at this moment, Zyraksha suddenly remembered something and reminded, "That's right. Do you know Zhenghu Research Institute?" When the name Zhenghu was mentioned, Eminem still had an impression, but the research institute didn't know, so he took advantage of the situation and asked, "What's wrong?" "The project that Dr. Zhenghu is currently researching seems to be a bit similar to your ability. You can go to him and try it. Maybe it will help you develop your special ability." Chapter 233 SHIHO-039 S-Loan. Zhenghu. What does the doctor study? Amu was a little surprised when he heard this. Is it related to my special ability? Could it be that he is also a male mother? But Eminem also realized right away it should refer to the feeling of ghost upper body when he and Pokémon are completely connected with each other. Right. Zhenghu has appeared in animations, comics, and games, but the characters are very different. In the game, Zhenghu is the inventor of the Pokémon storage system. Even in games and comics, Zhenghu's problems are top level. Accidentally merged myself with Pokémon and need the help of the protagonist to undo it. In the animation, the painting style is completely different. The trouble he encountered was just the funny behavior of I put on a Pokémon doll costume, but I couldn't take it off. What Zyraksha said at this time is the third situation that is subtly related to animation and games. Uncle Zhenghu is researching the spiritual link between humans and Pokémon. It is said that after success, humans will be able to empathize with Pokémon. I think it seems to be somewhat similar to your ability. How about it? Do you want to go and see it? Zyraksha asked Eminem. Obviously, Zyraksha knows Zhenghu, so she can introduce Eminem to visit Zhenghu's research institute. This might help both parties. Okay. Eminem's eyes lit up, and he nodded immediately. It would be great to be able to communicate about the application of one's own special abilities. Although Eminem understands that his special ability comes from the god's path, each kind of power still has no rules beyond this world in essence. Then, I'll ask Uncle Zhenghu first, if it's possible tomorrow. It just so happens that Uncle Zhenghu's research institute is just over the Hulan Lighthouse. Zyraksha said, preparing to call Zhenghu. As for this spiritual link project, Eminem feels that, from the direct effect, it seems to be similar to the painting style in games and comics, with a feeling of human and Pokémon fusion. But in essence, Zhenghu's idea is closer to animation. In the animation, the reason why Zhenghu wears a bulky doll costume that can't even be taken off by himself is to use this method to understand Pokémon's mood. Although it is a bit clumsy, but the intention is true. And judging from what Zyraksha just said, Zhenghu's spiritual link is precisely to enable humans and Pokémon to understand each other. It does sound very similar to the effect of animal perception when it is stimulated to the extreme. Uncle Zhenghu, yes, it's that Eminem. Can it be tomorrow? Good. I'll take him there tomorrow morning. Don't worry. I won't be a guest. After some contact, Zyraksha made an okay gesture to Amu. Judging from this, Zhenghu seems to be very worried that Zyraksha will make trouble, and Zyraksha seems to know that she has made trouble for Zhenghu. At the same time, in Zhenghu's research institute, Shirley is confronting Kinjiu. Give me another 3 days. Now the experiment is not considered deadlocked, so there is no need to do this. Shirley seemed to want to stop Jin. 3 days. Heh, I don't have that much time to wait for you sisters, and, although I don't know much about this, I can see that it will be difficult to advance research without alarming Zhenghu. Question mark? Even today, Zhenghu may have discovered the abnormality of the experimental subject. Qin Jiu said coldly, the experimental subject just had a slight rejection reaction. This is a normal phenomenon caused by repeated degeneration and evolution. Zhenghu will not know what this abnormality means. Zuli said calmly, oh. Then our great scientist, do you have any solution? On the premise of not alarming Zhenghu, Qin Jiu gradually became impatient, his eyes became more dangerous, and he began to invert the sentence point. When Zuli was speechless, suddenly the intercom phone rang next to her. Zuli glanced at Qin Jiu, then turned to answer, drive. Zhenghu, what's wrong? Shirley knew who it was just by looking at the number, and the moment she picked up the microphone, Shirley felt behind her back. Jin's giant claw praying mantis had placed a giant clamp that could crush her own head on her neck. Does Dr. Shaho have anything to do tomorrow? Zhenghu asked point during the joint experiment between the two. They usually do their own things and exchange data. Only when the purpose and technology overlap, they will conduct the experiment together. Some daily data collection. What's the matter? Shirley didn't say too much. Tomorrow, an expert pharmacist will come to visit. I remember that in Dr. Zibao's data, there is a set of genetic stability parameters that have been inconsistent, right? If you have time, we can study together. Zhenghu's tone was very enthusiastic. Expert level. Pharmacist. Shirley's eyes lit up. When she heard this, it may not be really useful, but at least she can use this excuse to stabilize the Jin first. Okay, I'm looking forward to it. Shirley quickly agreed point with Jin behind his back. He showed some impatience point. After putting down the phone, Qin Jiu said coldly, why didn't you refuse? Why did you refuse? If an expert pharmacist, maybe there is a way. Shirley said sternly, expert? A master pharmacist, the organization can't find it. Jin was obviously dissatisfied with this answer. No, it's like cooperating with Zhenghu. Everyone is good at different things, especially at the expert level. Shirley was unmoved by Jin's doubts. Seeing that Jin didn't speak, Shirley added, and what if I refuse? Do I have to order Dr. Zhenghu to tell the pharmacist not to come? It would make people suspicious instead. One day tomorrow. You only have one. Jin poured impatiently one after another, making Shirley feel more and more dangerous. Drive. Zhenghu's research institute is far away from the urban area, and there are no other buildings around, so the organization has controlled all the external communication channels of the research institute in the past few days, delivering materials, newspapers, and field patrols every day. All the people have been replaced by undercover agents of the organization, and the signal tower can be destroyed at any time. Qin Jiu is sure that within 2 or 3 days of the incident, the outside world will not know what happened to Zhenghu Research Institute. Buto knew that at this moment, an expert pharmacist would come. In this way, it is not good for Qin Jiu to act rashly. After all, what he wants to do is not to silence, at least not immediately, but Zhenghu needs to cooperate with them for a period of time. Now they dare not expose the real purpose to Zhenghu. Otherwise, Zhenghu will definitely report to Junsha Point. But now, if an expert pharmacist disappears, someone from the outside world will definitely find out. Jin needs to investigate again, cut off the pharmacist from the outside world, or wait for the other party to leave. Therefore, Jin accepted Shirley's statement for the time being. It would be better if the pharmacist could really help the experiment. Chapter 234 Countdown to Action. I heard a long time ago that we have a talented pharmacist in Guandu, and now I finally see it. Zhenghu welcomed Eminem very warmly. At the same time, Ami also found that Dr. Zhenghu was older than he imagined. No wonder Xiaoxia called him uncle. Seeing that Zhenghu didn't intend to let her in, Xiaoxia pulled Yuanzi and said, Uncle Zhenghu, let's go first. Let's go now. Don't come in and sit around. Zhenghu said while already backing away. Xiaoxia, I don't know what kind of mess Xiaoxia made here before. When Eminem and Zhenghu came to the institute, Zhenghu specifically said, by the way, there is another research team with a PhD very young, you can get to know each other later. When Zhenghu said this, he hesitated for a moment. From his point of view, Drive Xiao's research project is effects of emotions on Pokémon evolution, and it is indeed related to his own humans and Pokémon. The spiritual link of dreams project is related, but in the past 2 days, Zhenghu always felt that Drive Zibao seemed to be hiding a lot from herself in her project. Of course, as a scientific research project, it is normal to properly conceal and keep it secret, just like Zhenghu did not directly share its core technology with others, but Zhenghu faintly felt that the other party's project seemed to have some Pokémon ethics issues. Because it was just a guess, Zhenghu didn't mention it to Amu, but what Zhenghu hesitated was, should he let Amu test it out? Amu is a pharmacist. If he proposes to use medicine to solve the existing problems, and then let Amu come into contact with the experimental body, maybe he will find out. Zhenghu is unwilling to doubt a promising young doctor for no reason, but, indeed, he was able to see some things that Xiao hadn't thought of from Zhenghu's data. Eminem naturally didn't understand Zhenghu's complicated mood at this time, but he just heard Dr. Zhenghu say that, even if he was not interested in a doctor as young as himself, he would not refute his kindness. Soon Amu met Zibao. When seeing the other party, Amu was also taken aback. Originally, Amu thought that, even if Zhenghu said so, since the other party is a doctor, he must be older than himself. But, Drive Xiao looks and feels younger than Rika. You must know that a doctor in this world is not a degree, but a title of respect for outstanding scientific researchers with higher gold content. Generally, it is only those who can play the leading role alone and support a research institute, so they are called like this. Of course, what Amu didn't know was that it was because of his temperament that made Zibao look older. Otherwise he was only 17 years old, 1 year younger than Amu. Note 1. Seeing that Mew was stunned for a moment, Zhenghu also joked, hahaha, it seems that even Mew was taken aback. In Carlos, Dr. Xiao should be as famous as Mew for becoming famous at a young age, right? Hello, so Dr. Xiao is from Carlos. Eminem also realized at this time, reached out and shook hands with Dr. Xiao. The name sounds like the style of the Quartz Alliance, but I didn't expect it to be from Carlos. Hi, I didn't expect there to be such a young expert pharmacist in the Quartz Alliance. Xiao was actually a little surprised, but she was used to hiding her emotions. Eminem looked at the short brown hair of the other party. In fact, there was a sense of sight, but when Zheng Hui interrupted him, he didn't think much about it. If it is the name Huiunai, Amu will definitely understand it immediately. Even if it is Shirley, it will make Amu a little impressed, and then think of the Winnery and Zhao AI. But, Xiao is a bit unfamiliar to Eminem, who is not good at Conan's plot. If Jin could appear in the shape of a golden long straight and a black trench coat, Eminem would recognize it directly, but now Jin even has his hair up, and Vodka doesn't wear sunglasses. He is just tall, thin and too tall and strong passerbys. Amu will conduct a spiritual link experiment with me later in the afternoon. If the situation of the experimental subject is still unclear, you can let Amu take a look. Zhenghu took the initiative to mention it at this time point. When Qin Jiu heard the words, he immediately became alert, but seeing Emu's expression, as if he had just found out, he felt relieved. Zibao didn't expect that Zhenghu would take the initiative to mention. Has he really become suspicious? Okay, I'll leave it to Mr. Eminem after that. Xiao nodded reservedly. Seeing Dr. Xiao and the two researchers leave, Eminem also felt a little weird. How is this like bringing two bodyguards? Is there something wrong with those two people? Eminem used animal perception to silently contact Zheng Jiu in the shadow. Is it wrong to be fierce? I don't feel anything else, Gissy, Zheng Jiu said as a matter of course. At the same time, after returning to the independent research room Zhenghu prepared for them, Jin reminded Vodka, be careful in the future. There is a Jenga in the shadow of that pharmacist. Huh? Still a ghost trainer? Vodka was taken aback when he heard that point on Qin Jiu's chest. There seemed to be a pendant flashing at this moment. If you look carefully, you will find that it looks like a sword and shield overlapping. Ghost type Pokémon are indeed easy to hide, but if they hide from each other, the weaker ones will be discovered. Who knows, maybe it's just the grass element that has evolved into the poison element. But that Zhenghu, it seems that he has really seen something. Tonight at the latest. Can't delay any longer. Qin Jiu said coldly wrote. Well, tonight. I hope that pharmacist has some real talents. Zibeo also understood that it was impossible to stop the Jin at this time point. I can only hope that Eminem, who is an expert pharmacist, can solve the current problem. Is that kid really an expert pharmacist? He looks about the same age as Shirley. Vodka couldn't help questioning. I checked the news, and it is indeed a young pharmacist who is very famous in Guan. You can try it later and recruit him into the organization. Jin Jiu said sullenly. Well, Shaho didn't know that Jin was ready to kill their sisters, not only because her sister Mingmei had made up her mind to leave the organization, but also because of Mingmei's relationship with the guy he hated the most among the researchers of the organization. Zibeo is also one of the most important people. Jin had a hard time convincing the boss to kill Zibeo. Jin, who has a strong sense of responsibility for the organization, needs to supplement the organization in this regard. Fresh blood will do. Note 1. People in the Conan series are basically cut off by 1 year old because time is fluid and the age will increase later, so the age of appearance is lowered. Chapter 235 Props. Alliance August 9th. 200. In the suburbs of Hualan City, Zhenghu Research Institute. At this time, Amu is cooperating with Zhenghu to carry out the spiritual link experiment. A pair of hoods that looked very black technology and connected with various pipelines were worn on Eminem's head at this time. At the same time, Eminem is raising his hand, palm facing the coconut egg tree, that is. Amen. Stimulating the ability of animal perception. Originally, Zhenghu's research, the final envisioned result, is to allow human beings to fully experience Pokemon's perception and even spirit through the spiritual link to a certain extent. It is similar to Eminem's animal perception. It is very similar to the ghost upper body when it is aroused to the extreme point in the beginning. Amu cooperated with Zhenghu several times, but the experiment still failed. After all, the technology is still immature. Even if the target is Eminem, whose spirit is often linked out, it is still difficult to stabilize, which is almost like a punishment. Later, Amu suggested that Zhenghu first modify the spiritual link device to become a device that receives input signals, and then, from the spiritual level, analyze Amu's state when he was in the ghost upper body, that is to say, from treating Eminem as a useful test product to studying the scope of Eminem's special ability. At this time, Amu's eyes were closed, while the smirk on the three faces of coconut egg tree seemed to be a little restrained, and some wisdom appeared in the dull eyes. Egg coconut tree jumped, and then shouted at Zhenghu, Mr. Eminem, this is amazing. Zhenghu looked at the various data on the screen with glowing eyes. How are you feeling now? Wait, which side is you? The current state. Does your coconut egg tree communicate with you? In Zhenghu's mouth, Amu directly upgraded to you. It's a pity that Eminem couldn't answer him with Amen's body, but gradually withdrew from the state of ghost upper body. Seeing that Amu was moving again, Zhenghu hurriedly stepped forward to help him take off his helmet, and then asked, last night, Zhenghu heard Xiaoxia describe Eminem's special ability, but before that, Zhenghu thought it was Xiaoxia asking him to help her friend determine the scope of special ability. After all, he had also invited many communication special talent trainers to cooperate with his own research and analysis before, and he even had the data of the owner of the power of Viridian. But now Zhenghu's thinking has completely changed. Indeed, the essence of my special ability is to communicate with Pokémon until it deepens to empathy, and eventually there will be an illusion of I have become a Pokémon. Eminem replied calmly, illusion? Zhenghu was taken aback when he heard this. To be honest, I don't think it's a consciousness transfer. It's just that in that state, I can fully accept all kinds of signals from the Pokémon's body, and the Pokémon's consciousness is also coordinated with me, doing what I want, that's all. Eminem also has his own judgment on the ability of animal perception. For the Pokémon who doesn't completely trust him, Eminem can only do the former, and he will also feel that he is in the body of the Pokémon. But, when Eminem wants to control his body, if the target Pokémon hesitates for a while, it will cause a sense of separation, which will make Eminem understand that he is just receiving information and outputting information, not really controlling Pokemon's body. And if it is a Pokemon that doesn't trust Eminem and deliberately prevents itself from being perceived by Eminem, then animal perception can't even do the former. Communication is the beginning, and it develops towards mind communication, and when the information is unobstructed, you will feel like you have become a Pokemon. That's right, my research direction is not wrong. Zenghu did not disappointed, but very excited point after all. The root of Zenghu's vision for his own research is mutual understanding between humans and Pokémon. Zenghu himself was excited for a while. Firstly, he obtained valuable data, and secondly, he indirectly verified the feasibility of the idea. Of course, the former is only a reference. After all, this is the effect of Eminem's own special talent. And in this effect, some data can be detected and understand its meaning, but there are also some fluctuations that they cannot detect at all. After being excited, Zenghu came back to his senses. First looked at Eminem shyly. Sorry, I'm too fascinated. It's okay, it's the same. When I refine medicine, Amu said indifferently. It seems it is indeed as Zyarksha said, you should be able to use the previous thing. But I have to modify it again and combine the data I just collected. Zenghu was a little incoherent at first. Eminem thought Matsuki was quite normal, but now it seems, as long as he encounters something of interest, he will go offline just like in the animation. Ah, you don't know what it is, do you? Come and take a look with me. Zenghu invited. Hearing this, Amu and Zenghu came to a place that looked like a storage room. It was a clean and bright storehouse that was not cluttered. It looked like a place where important items were kept. I found it. Zenghu rummaged through the corner and found a pair of combat power glasses. This is. Eminem was still puzzled. You can choose the name as you like. In short, it is something that can accurately measure the various values of Pokémon, as well as the mastery of characteristics and skills. Zenghu said with a little pride, including individual correction rate and growth value. Amu was a little surprised when he heard this. Generally speaking, this kind of value is roughly estimated. If you want to make an exact statistics, you need to conduct a lot of professional tests and use professional instruments. It is definitely not something that can be displayed by a combat power glasses beeping twice. Even Eminem's animal sense only makes Eminem observe Pokémon as if observing himself, and then speculate on various situations. But, is it necessarily accurate when you observe yourself? Obviously not. That's right. But, the premise is that it must be fully compatible with the Pokémon before it can take effect. Zenghu also understood why Amu was surprised, so he opened his mouth to explain. If it was really so powerful, it wouldn't make sense for this thing to be unknown, and it would even be as popular as an illustrated book. As the inventor, Zenghu should have already achieved fame, but the reality is, the prerequisites for this thing are too great. It is equivalent to using technology to simulate the effects similar to animal senses before it can be used. Eminem can fully imagine the circumstances under which this was developed. Simply speaking of mutual understanding between humans and Pokémon, perhaps many people will be interested. But I'm afraid that none of them are willing to spend a lot of money on research. It is said that developing a super prop that is portable and accurately measures various values of Pokémon, as long as there is a relatively reasonable blueprint, the investment will be softened. To put it bluntly, this is a presentation work to cover Zenghu's real research project and show it to investors. Of course, as a serious doctor, Zenghu didn't cheat the funds for nothing and even made things. There are only prerequisites. Well, this prerequisite is also what Zenghu has been working hard for, but there is no random fraud of funds, and as long as there is additional investment, this prerequisite is also hopeful to be overcome. As for Zenghu's current investment status, looking at his current research institute, it is located in a place where there is no village in the front, and no shops in the back, and you can guess one or two. Chapter 236 Rock Carvings. Zenghu was also very happy to find that Eminem might be able to use this thing. The owner of the Viridian power who came to cooperate with his experiment before could not use it. I have to make some adjustments according to your situation. It will take about 3 days. Zheng didn't hand it over to Eminem immediately because its operation principle is still very theoretical point. But now this thing does work. As long as Zheng adjusts this thing according to the data just now, Armu will be able to use it. This is also the main reason why Xiaoxia introduced Armu here. She knew that Zheng had always had a useless invention, and she seemed to fit in with Armu. Zheng is also very happy. On the one hand, his own research will get some practical verification. On the other hand, if Eminem can really use it, then he will be more confident when he raises investment and introduces products. Then, leave it to Dr. Zheng. Eminem was already looking forward to it. Although the numerical value is only a human statistical method, Pokémon itself does not have a numerical value, but it is very meaningful to be able to count more accurately. First of all, if you can measure subtle improvements, you will be able to better target training. Making various improvements visible to the naked eye is a powerful incentive in itself, and it can also correct the training content in real time. At this moment, Armu suddenly noticed that on the wall of the storage room, there was an old looking stone carving, on which seemed to be a super huge fast dragon. Immediately, Eminem remembered the really important plot related to Zheng in the animation. In addition to pursuing mutual understanding between humans and Pokémon, Zheng has been pursuing or looking forward to the appearance of a certain Pokémon of fantasy. He has only heard the voice of that Pokémon, and he has heard that its cry is very lonely. For this reason, Zheng in the animation has been guarding the lighthouse for several years and usually lives in the lighthouse. In the animation, the Pokémon finally appeared when the sea was full of thick fog, but it became one of the black histories of the first generation of animation. The existence that broke away from the setting appeared in the dense fog. The silhouette is Quick Dragon, yes, but if it is just Koalong, although it is a quasi-sacred beast in the Kanto area, it is not so rare. But the problem is, this fast dragon is standing under the cliff where the lighthouse is located. The seawater is not up to its knees, and the top of its head has surpassed the cliff and the lighthouse. It is tens of meters high by visual measurement. Originally, Eminem thought that this scene would not appear in the real world of Pokémon. After all, even the boss Pokémon is only several times bigger. In the Legend of Ninja Village in the Kanto area, the strongest boss Pokémon, judging from the murals in Xiaoan Town, is only a dozen meters high. But the rock sculpture in front of me, the Pokémon that looks like a quick dragon inside, and a few boats are painted around it. Obviously, in terms of proportion, it is far more than 10 meters. Drive. Zheng this is. Eminem couldn't help asking, this should be God of the Sea. Zheng said with some embarrassment. After all, from his experience, when he mentioned this matter to other people, the other party must be skeptical or even ridiculed. Although he himself still believes in it, but after all, he is old, and as time goes by, he is not willing to explain it to others. Just seeing Eminem's very interested expression, Zheng has some expectations, hoping that Eminem can believe it. God of the Sea. Isn't that Rogier? Amu asked suspiciously. Indeed, in the original setting, Koalong is also known as the incarnation of the sea. Although it does not have the attribute of water, the habitat of Koalong is on the sea, and there are many legends about Hakan and Koalong rescuing shipwrecks. From the Koalong family's habit of saving lives, it's not surprising that people who rely on the sea to eat have honorific titles like Sea God. But seriously speaking, Sea God is Rogier. No, Rogier is the god of the sea. Zheng emphasized. Armu was even more suspicious when he heard the words. Only one of was missing, and it became two positions. Can Rogier agree to this? If you are willing to listen to what I have to say, I can tell you well. However, because it happened a long time ago, I'm not sure if it's a hallucination. Zheng said he was asking for Armu's opinion, but at this time he sat down on his own point anyway. Eminem can't say I don't want to, can't he? Besides, Eminem is really interested. Afterwards, Armu also heard Zheng talk about his fate with this god of the sea. Zheng is a native of Hualan City. When he was playing at the seaside, when he was a child, he accidentally forgot the time and was swept away by the ebb tide. Although there was a swimming ring, which saved his life for a while, no one found it, and he couldn't swim back. Gradually, he couldn't even see the coast point at night. When Zheng was already unconscious, he suddenly saw a huge figure uttered a lonely cry, as if appearing suddenly, wandering on the sea point. Although the sea area to the southeast of Hualan Lighthouse is not too deep, it is about 50 meters long, but the sea water only reaches the belly of the huge figure, because of the other part is moving. The waves on the sea rolled up. Although he was very scared, Zheng still instinctively called for help. After exhausting all his strength, Zheng passed out completely, but he vaguely remembered that a huge platform rose up under him. It seemed that it was its palm point. Later, when Zheng woke up again, he found that he was already at home. According to his family members, he was found sleeping on the coast point. As for what he saw, although he also talked about it with others, everyone said that he was dreaming after falling asleep. Only there was indeed a rare thick fog on the sea that night, and it was impossible to see anything 10 meters away. Zheng has always remembered this matter, and when he grew up, he also devoted himself to the research of this huge Pokémon point in some small fishing villages by the sea. Zheng found some fishermen who have a tradition of calling Kualang the god of the sea. Since ancient times in some places, legends of supergiant fast dragons have been discovered, and there is also a saying that god of the sea will come in a thick fog. Confirming with his own vague memory, Zheng felt that the one who saved him when he was a child was probably a supergiant fast dragon. Zheng even heard another saying from an old man in his 90s at the seaside: god of the sea is Kualang, but Kualang is not god of the sea. In the end, Zheng obtained this stone slab that can be used as indirect evidence, and the one on it is the legendary god of the sea. So I guess that what the ancestors called god of the sea is actually the supergiant fast dragon. Gradually, the saying that the fast dragon is the incarnation of the sea and the god of the sea came into being. Zheng spoke enthusiastically. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Problematic Experiment. Although Zheng has now become Drive Zheng when it comes to his research topics, he is also deeply influenced by that supergiant fast dragon. I want to know why that huge fast dragon makes that lonely sound. This is actually the beginning of the study of spiritual links. Hahaha, isn't it a bit naive? Zheng tone was not like it was a joke, but in the end, in order not to be regarded as a weirdo, I still joked a little bit. At this time, Armu wondered, but such a big fast dragon is still close to the shore. How could it have been undetected? I'm afraid it can't be hidden by the thick fog, and it's unlikely to be an extremely large dragon. Gigantic. All the gigantic energy points discovered so far are in the Galar region, and the gigantic energy points are generally less than 100 meters in radius, so it is impossible for supergiant fast dragons to roam around. Although, Armu also had a questioning tone. After Zheng heard it, he became even more happy, because Armu's questioning seemed to be that he really believed it, and then he raised doubts, which was very similar to his own thoughts. But don't simply dismiss it as nonsense. Of course it's not a giganta. If it's a giganta, it won't sink in the sea, and the giganta will glow all over, so I can't see why. Zheng discussed with Eminem enthusiastically. More importantly, a gigantic transformation is generally 20 to 30 meters high, and some special forms of gigantic transformations will be even taller. For example, the 1000-faced evasion can reach more than 40 meters after the gigantic transformation, but most of them, it's the tail that stands up high. Now the principle of extreme giantization is still a mystery in this world. People only know that at some extreme giant energy points, Pokémon can be extremely giant, and even gymnasiums and important competition venues in the Galar area will be artificially created extremely large energy point. In this range of duels, Pokémon can also be extremely gigantic, but in the final analysis, there is still an essential difference between extreme giantization and real enlargement. Not only the weight is a mystery, but also it cannot move in a large range, and can only confront the wave in the energy point according to the latest research results in the Galar area. The essence of extreme giantization is a kind of space distortion. That is, it does not really become bigger, but when the energy point of extreme giantization is activated, the concept of size is different. Note 1. Moreover, according to the game settings that Eminem knows, extreme giantization is caused by Wuji tamer, and energy points should not appear outside the Galar area anyway. In the blink of an eye, the two chatted until the afternoon, and when they realized the time, they quickly slapped their heads. I'm sorry, I've delayed you for so long. It's okay, I'm also very interested in these legends. Eminem said, not minding. Oh, then you can come here often recently. In fact, according to the experience I have extracted and summarized from the folklore of various seaside fishing villages, every 30 years the trajectory of it will show a periodicity, and I saw that time. It was at this time 30 years ago. Ahem. Of course, that's all I said. As Zhenghu said, he didn't know what to do, but this is indeed one of the reasons why his research institute is here. It is on the same seaside cliff as the lighthouse. Okay. If it really appears, Dr. Zhenghu must inform me. Eminem also looked very interested. After all, if there is such a big one, its strength may be comparable to that of a divine beast, right? At that time, in case I succeed in subduing it, young people are not allowed to have some dreams. By the way, Dr. Zhenghu, what difficulties did you encounter in Dr. Shaho's experiment that you said earlier? You remembered that Zhenghu wanted to go to Dr. Zaho's side to have a look in the afternoon point. When Zhenghu heard this, he immediately showed hesitation, but he still said, Drive Shaho is an expert in evolution and Pokémon genes. He is looking for cooperation in order to explore the influence of emotions on evolution. Eminem was even more surprised when he heard this. Evolution and gene are undoubtedly the most prominent of the academics related to Pokémon. After all, the most amazing thing about Pokémon, which is most different from humans and ordinary animals, is their special gene structure and evolution point. It is bound to be more difficult and more valuable to become a doctor and support a research institute on this crowded track. The influence of emotions on evolution? So, what does it have to do with pharmacy? Eminem didn't understand. Zhenghu hesitated again when he heard the words because he also had no real evidence, so he was entangled in whether to remind Eminem to pay attention to this matter. However, thinking about what the experimental body might encounter now, Zhenghu still said, we conducted a joint experiment before. The content of the experiment is to stimulate the evolution of the experimental body through spiritual links. It is said that there is no problem with the content of this experiment, but during the experiment, the experimental subject suddenly went berserk, although the other party was well prepared, and quickly suppressed, and took away the runaway experimental subject. It aroused Zhenghu's vigilance. Afterwards, Zhenghu analyzed the data in the experiment, and suspected that the experimental subject was not only mentally controlled by illegal means, but also, the genes were already in an unstable state, although I don't know exactly how the other party did it, but if this is the case, this involves serious ethical issues in Pokémon research, and it is also a serious illegal act. Zhenghu told Eminem all this, hoping that he would further confirm the state of the experimental subject. If it was confirmed, Zhenghu would immediately report it to Junsha. The gene is already unstable? What kind of experiment is it? Eminem heard of this situation for the first time. Zhenghu also shook his head and said, I don't know, that kind of unstable way. It's also the first time I've seen it. By the way, what kind of Pokémon is that experimental subject? Eminem already had a vague guess in his heart, but he still asked one more question. If Eminem's expectations are not bad, the high probability should be Ibrahimovic. In addition to diversified, Eevee is recognized as the most genetically unstable Pokémon. In the game illustrations of all ages, Eevee will be described as genetically unstable, which makes it have many evolutionary forms, and there is another important reason why Eminem thinks of Ibrahimovic. Zhenghu in the comics is involved in the plot of mutated Ibrahimovic. There is a mutant Eevee in the comics, which can evolve into Reab, Water Eevee, Fire Eevee, and can degenerate back to Eevee and switch evolution status. But because the gene is unstable, that Eevee Ibrahimovic was very manic. and then he met the protagonist Zyokai, and the mania gradually calmed down listening to Zenghu's description. Now, Eminem could easily think of that Ibrahimovic, and then Dr. Zenghu indeed replied, "It's an Ibrahimovic, Zenghu. Didn't know that this Ibrahimovic could evolve repeatedly and degenerate into different roots." Of course, Eminem wasn't sure about this either. "I understand. As long as I can get close to that EV in the future, I will definitely pay attention to its state. But, that Dr. Shaho is really from the Carlos area." Amu confirmed to Dr. Masaki again. Zenghu was taken aback when he heard the words and didn't understand why Eminem asked this, but he nodded and said, "This is not wrong. They were indeed a research team in the Carlos area before, but they were not well known." Note 1. This is not entirely a second design. The producer Amori Shigeru and the father of the fire-breathing dragon Masuda Junichi both replied that the gigantic enlargement of the extremely large is a visual effect. The setting in this book is roughly special evolution plus space distortion volume concept. Chapter 238 Signal Interruption. Amu came to the independent research area, where Dr. Shaho was located. Masaki was still very virtuous. Even if he was suspicious, he didn't monitor anything. After all, it involved the research secrets of the other party. Dr. Zebao's team was arranged on the third floor, and people from the Zenghu Research Institute would not come to the third floor. After listening to Zenghu's description, Eminem has already confirmed 3 points in his heart. That experimental EV is probably the mutated EV in the comics, right? But what puzzled Eminem was that the Ibrahimovic in the comics was the product of Team Rocket's evil and inhuman experiments. But the current Dr. Shaho is obviously not from Team Rocket. On the one hand, it is because the Rockets should be more honest recently, and they will not come to Dr. Masaki especially at this time. On the other hand, the Shaho team is indeed from the Carlos area. Speaking of the Carlos area, the first thing Eminem thinks of is the Flash team, the most mysterious and most infiltrated of the regional violent organizations, more importantly, a suspected black organization. But thinking of this, Eminem shook his head. Research evolution has nothing to do with Team Flare or the black organization. When he was distracted, Amu also went to the wrong room. The structure of each floor was the same, and he wanted to go to the innermost bathroom first, but Amu accidentally came to the dressing room next to him. What's more, the person who happened to be changing clothes inside didn't close the door, so Eminem saw the exposed white back and long straight golden hair. Sorry. Eminem was taken aback for a moment, then instinctively thought it was a woman, and quickly closed the door just when Amu was thinking about how to behave comprehensively for a while. When he didn't see anything, Amu suddenly felt that something was wrong. Recall that back curve. How do you look like a man? And he is still a very streamlined muscular man. At this moment, the door of the locker room opened, and Jin looked coldly at Eminem outside the door. "Why didn't you knock?" I want to go to the bathroom." "Sorry." Amu pointed to the bathroom next to him apologetically. "Come to the bathroom on the third floor?" Kinjiu was obviously not satisfied with this answer. "No, I'm here to talk to Dr. Shaho, and I want to talk about the experiment, but I just want to go to the bathroom first." Amu said embarrassedly. At the same time, Eminem also took a second look at Jin's blonde hair. Good guy. His hair is waist length, and I don't know if it's convenient for him to go to the toilet. At first glance, I thought, wait. Amy suddenly thought of something. Golden long straight with waist length hair? Could it be? Seeing Emu's shocked expression, Kinjiu suddenly became murderous and asked in a cold voice, "What's wrong?" "It's just that." Kinjiu was also puzzled. "I didn't reveal anything suspicious, and I didn't have any tattoos on my body." What did he see? When Amu heard this, he immediately understood that the other party was already doubting himself. Thinking of the ferocity of the Flame Team and the Black Organization, and thinking of Jin and Wine killing people without blinking an eye, Amu also became nervous. After brainstorming, Amu really thought of the excuse. "Yuan, so you are a man?" Amu no longer controlled the terrified expression on his face. Jin almost didn't hold back. Just thinking about his back just now, Kinjiu couldn't say anything, but is it really that horrifying? Seeing Emu's still embarrassed face, Jin was slightly puzzled, but most of the doubts disappeared. Maybe this guy is looking forward to the beautiful blonde girl. Jin narrowed his eyes and felt that he already had a way to recruit this guy, but he needed a little help from Belmont. Although he was a bit older, he could wear Macup, right, drive. Zebeo is analyzing the second room, Kinjiu said, and walked over to the second analysis room point, but just after the Jin passed by Eminem, he put his hand directly into his bosom and pressed something. At the same time, Amu went to the bathroom first, and then immediately took out the illustration book, ready to report to Junsha. Not only Junsha, but also Mr. Jumu. Let him contact Ulan City directly, even if Junsha has an internal response. He will not dare to. Eminem found that the illustration book was disconnected from the internet. Zhenghu Research Institute is indeed not in the signal area of Hualan City, but has its own signal tower, and now there is no signal. Eminem suspects this is not accidental. Amu adjusted his mood, and after telling Zheng Jiui to pay attention, he acted like I didn't find anything. I just frowned slightly, because the signal was cut off, just as Eminem was about to go to the elevator and leave the third floor first. The elevator door opened, and a tall and strong researcher blocked it. Although he was still wearing a white coat, and did not wear sunglasses at this time, but because of the previous Jin Changxi, Eminem also had more associations with this one. Mr. Eminem, where are you going? Dakin just told me that you came to assist us. Vodka asked directly. Is there a signal in the NI illustrated book? I'll ask Dr. Zhenghu. Eminem said impatiently. Vodka didn't mean to get out of the way, but took out the communicator from his arms and looked at it. Although Eminem had never seen Gala's illustrated book, this was by no means a illustrated book, but a communicator. Indeed, mine doesn't have a signal anymore, but the independent signal tower. It's probably out of order, and there was one yesterday too. Let's go to Dr. Shaho first. Vodka smiled as kindly as possible. Does the signal disconnect frequently? Oops. I still have an appointment with someone later. Eminem looked distressed. Hearing this, Vodka's little eyes flashed a little, but he still said, is it a very important connection? Unfortunately, there is only one independent signal transmission tower here, and if something goes wrong, there will be no signal at all. It's gin and vodka. Just tried it once yesterday. Forget it. Let's go to Dr. Zibeo first. I hope the signal will be repaired soon. Otherwise I may not be able to stay overnight today. Amu said helplessly. Eminem didn't dare to hint too clearly, lest the other party perceive her own perception. Eminem mainly wants to tell the other party that someone is looking for me at night and finds that I'm not in the signal area, and someone will notice immediately. And if there is a signal, I actually want to tell my friends that I will stay overnight in the institute tonight. Don't worry, do it at this time. In order not to startle the snake, Eminem and Vodka first came to the second analysis room where Dr. Shaho worked. Eminem found that the guy who suspiciously looks like Vodka just pressed the password and didn't ring the doorbell before entering the door. Obviously, this doesn't seem like a researcher's attitude. When he came to the second analysis room, Eminem found that only Dr. Zibeo and the suspected Jin Changxi were there, and in the center of the room, in a sealed instrument like a nutrition cabin, a painful looking Ibrahimovic soaked in the liquid. Various pipelines are connected to the head and body. It should be the experimental subject at the same time. There is the figure of Dr. Zhenghu on the screen, which should be in the video call. There is an internal communication in the institute, which is wired transmission, and has nothing to do with wireless signals. I'm sorry, there are some problems on the signal tower side, and we are already solving them. Dr. Zhenghu said embarrassingly. Seeing that Mew also came in, Dr. Zhenghu also reminded, Mew is here too. Just wait a little longer. If the signal is not restored at 8 o'clock, I will ask someone to take you back to the city and then contact Dr. Jumu. Zhenghu acted as if he knew that Amu would contact Jumu at night, and at the same time looked at Amu through the camera with a little nervousness. Apparently Zhenghu has also noticed something is wrong, and now I hope Eminem can understand his hint. Chapter 239 Experimental Subject. Okay, if you can't recover at 8 o'clock, I can only bother you tomorrow. Eminem understood Dr. Zhenghu's meaning right away and took his words directly, as if he would stay overnight. As soon as the signal recovered point after that, Zhenghu hung up the internal line and at the same time sent people to the city to find maintenance personnel. In the second analysis room on the third floor, Jin secretly gave Vodka a look, and then Vodka turned and left point, not waiting for Eminem to wonder about Vodka's behavior. Zibeo looked at Eminem with a slight smile and said, "There are still several hours until 8 o'clock. Let's take a look at our experimental subjects first." "Okay, I heard from Dr. Zhenghu that the experimental subject has a genetic breakdown that leads to mental instability, right?" You confirmed to Zibeo, then looked at Ibrahimovic in the nutrition cabin. "That's right. I heard that your special ability is also about communication. It's similar to spiritual link." Shaho looked at Eminem with interest. That's right. According to what Shaho and the others told Zhenghu, the causal relationship is actually reversed. They said that they found an Ibrahimovic with a serious genetic disease, so they used it as a test subject, so maybe it can be cured. Of course, they will not tell Dr. Zhenghu that Ibrahimovic's current state is exactly the result of their experiment, but after such a toss, the experimental subject's spirit has a great problem. It's not just an emotional level of resistance, but its spirit has become abnormal. It can't even do forced consciousness manipulation. Fortunately, this experimental subject is not strong, and it is not the ultimate goal of the experiment. It is just a phased experimental product. It is enough to collect the desired information, so the organization does not feel too distressed. It was originally planned to be destroyed directly. It's just because Shaho kept submitting reports, which showed that it still has high experimental value, and applied to continue to deepen the experiment. And, at this time, Ada was confirmed to be an undercover agent, and Zibeo's sister Mingmei was determined to leave the organization. So Qin Jiu took advantage of the opportunity to apply to the boss and destroy Zibeo together if necessary. Only then did they come to the Kanto area in the name of joint research and development. At this time, Mingmei was also ordered to rob a breeding house in Hualan City. In name, this was the last thing the organization wanted her to do. As long as she succeeded, the organization would set the sisters free. "Let me try first. I can't communicate with Pokémon that are too mentally unstable." Of course, Eminem would not tell the truth at this time. Immediately, Eminem asked, "Can I take it out now?" It looked like it couldn't be operated remotely for a short period of time. "It's fine. Now it's relatively stable," Zibeo said and glanced at Jin, and then Jin released a giant pincer mantis for security, while Zibeo went to manipulate the keys on the side. Soon the liquid in the nutrition cabin leaked out, the isolation cover was opened, and Zibeo also stepped forward to unplug all the messy pipelines on it, and then put it on the test bench. Seeing this, Amu glanced at Zibeo secretly. He was still worried that after he activated his ability, whether he would be detected because of the mental fluctuations caused by Ibrahimovic. Is it a coincidence, or is this person already at odds with Jin and the others? After knowing that Jin is Jin, the name Zibeo became easier to recognize. It's just that Eminem is not sure how credible the current Zaho is. After all, before she really betrayed the organization, she was at most just a slightly soft-hearted organizational scientist, and she cannot be regarded as a scientist by wishful thinking teammate. At this time, Ibrahimovic is basically in a semi-comatose state, still lying on the experimental table. The reason why he is said to be semi-comatose is because he looks painful and twitches, and it is different from other Ibrahimovic. Perhaps because of the pain, or even the reason of being in pain for a long time, the facial features of this Ibrahimovic are a bit ferocious, completely different from the cute Ibrahimovic in Eminem's impression. Is it in the state of being subdued now? Amu didn't rush to contact, but asked first. "No, it hasn't been tamed by anyone since it was born." "Well, it's because of a genetic disease," Zibeo also specially explained. However, Qin Jiu gave him a sideways glance. This explanation was a bit deliberate. "Hey, it's okay, let me see." Eminem whispered comforting words, put his hand on top of Ibrahimovic's head, and then closed his eyes. At first, Eminem worried that the so-called mental confusion would affect his animal perception, but after really trying, Eminem found that this worry was unnecessary. Animal perception. It was easy to establish a connection with this EV, but later, the signal from the other party was a mess. Eminem also realized that this feeling, probably the other party is not unwilling to communicate with himself, but unable to communicate. As far as the mental state is concerned, it is far worse than imagined. You must know that even some Pokémon with weak consciousness can communicate completely with animal perception. This is not a question of whether the consciousness is clear, but now the spirit of this Ibrahimovic is completely like an ordinary beast, and it is a wounded and sensitive beast. Fortunately, Eminem's animal sensation is not simply communication, or in other words, capable of deeper communication, since the other party did not resist animal perception itself. Then Eminem also tried to get in touch with his soul. Although he couldn't communicate directly, Eminem entered Ibrahimovic's current dream point. The hazy vision around him meant that Ibrahimovic, the scene engraved deep in his memory, was currently in the nutrition cabin or born in a nutrition cabin. From the intermittent memory fragments, Eminem saw several experiments that Ibrahimovic experienced. Use the processed water stone, firestone, thunderstone, and leaf stone to directly stimulate evolution, not the normal training mode of carrying evolution stones, but first process the evolutionary stone, and then stimulate Ibrahimovic. That in itself had a bad effect on Ibrahimovic. What's more, in the future, I will use something that Emu doesn't know to make Ibrahimovic degenerate. It looks like a flickering luminous ball. Every time this thing is used, the surrounding researchers they will wear heavy isolation gowns. It was the radiation from this thing that caused Ibrahimovic's own genes to collapse and caused severe pain. After degenerating, he would try other evolutionary methods repeatedly. This Ibrahimovic can now switch between the 4 evolutionary bodies, but the spirit has also completely collapsed. At the same time, in Ibrahimovic's memory, Eminem also indirectly discovered some things, such as drive. Shaho has sprung up in the past few years and has received more and more attention. After all, this Ibrahimovic has been experimented on for several years, and there was no Shaho in its memory at first. However, Shaho gradually joined the experiment, and his status obviously continued to improve. In the end, he even dared to directly slap the table with the other leader of the experiment and save this EV that was almost destroyed. And at this moment, Eminem heard, or in other words, the conversation that Ibrahimovic heard not long ago and must have wanted to convey was finally synchronized by Eminem. At this time, Ibrahimovic and the life support device heard the sudden arrival of the man in black, Jin, and the conversation with the leader of the experiment. What? Boss really agreed to let her continue the experiment? Are you kidding me? My report has made it very clear that this guy is worthless. Shut up. Who are you questioning? I did not mean that. Oh, don't be so excited. You also understand her sister, the relationship with that guy. Don't worry, after this time, you won't have to see her again. Chapter 240. See-through. From the mutated Ibrahimovic's memory fragments, Eminem learned something, and even learned that Jin Jiu was planning to kill Zibao and Mingmui's sisters. In addition, on a technical level, Eminem discovered that this EV can now evolve into 4 forms, which is one more evolution of Yeb than in the comics. Even if the experiment is not over, and the organization is preparing to destroy the experimental body, it is still preparing for the evolutionary stimulus of Ibrahimovic. It is end, not failure. The organization has obtained the desired data, mutated Ibrahimovic, and so on. If it is abolished, it will be abolished, not the ultimate goal. At this time, Eminem pretended not to find anything and said regretfully, "It's a little troublesome, and I can't communicate effectively with it, but I can." Just when Eminem wanted to say that he could try it out and prepare medicine to relieve his symptoms, Vodka pressed the password to common. Then Eminem suddenly felt a chill on the back of his neck. Although he didn't look back, Eminem still saw from the corner of his eye that it was Jin's giant claw praying mantis, which was using its pliers to compare Eminem's back of the neck. Huh? Dr. Shaho, what do you mean? Eminem pretended to be annoyed and flustered. Just now, when Dr. Zenghu hinted at Armu felt a little bad, and now it really came true. Mr. Eminem didn't just find out, did he? Your teacher, Dr. Chumu, is attending an internal meeting of the Quartz Alliance tonight, so it is impossible to have any agreement with you. Vodka said, and he had already put on his sunglasses. Obviously I don't pretend anymore. Well, after wearing sunglasses to cover his beady eyes, he looks much more fierce. Amu was silent for a while when he heard the words. Just now he was thinking, to organize in black, or flash team, that permeates many characteristics, in case there are people like them around Mr. Jumu, or even just people he knows among them. If there are people with them, they will be easily tempted. Now it seems that Mr. Jumu is still holding a meeting in the Quartz Alliance, so as long as there is a member of the flame team among the participants or a staff member who knows about this matter, they can get the news. Before Vodka left, he should have gone to a place with a signal to contact their internal line, while Eminem secretly said unfortunately. He pretended to be calm and cool and said, "Oh, then I want to video connect this meeting to my teacher as a supplementary content." While Eminem was talking, the shadow squirmed quietly, but before Amu finished speaking, I saw Jin pulling on his chest, and then a cold light flashed across Amu's shadow. Separated, fell to the side. At this moment, a sword and shield appeared out of thin air in Kin Jiu's hand. The overall color is dark gold. There is this eye on the sword frame of the sword, the 3 vortex symbols on the round shield, and the black floating behind it. The ghost system energy smoke. It is a sword monster with strong shield in weapon mode. Compared with the animation style, the sword with eyeballs is obviously much darker in reality. Sturdy. Shield sword monster is a Pokémon that is more common in the Kalos area, and it is very rare even in the Kalos area, usually in ancient ruins, and it is extremely difficult to subdue. It is said that the sword monster will only choose those who it thinks have the potential to be a king as trainers, because the giants in the ancient Kalos area were tall. The sword monsters with strong shields who fought side by side with the giants were also very large. Usually, the sword is 1.7 meters tall. It looks like a one-handed sword with a shield, but it is bigger. The two-handed broadsword used by modern people is even bigger. However, as long as the trainer can get the approval of sword monster with strong shield, sword monster with strong shield will turn into a size suitable for the trainer's body. Zheng Jiui, who was hacked out, was intimidated by a brew emperor before he could stand up, surprisingly. Vodka also released the Pokémon at the side. Oh. Could it be that Mr. Amu is going to say that in the internal meeting of the divisions of Guandu and Chengdu, your teacher will quote your exposition on pharmacy? Heh. Jin sneered disdainfully. Sector division of Johto and Kanto? Mew's heart moved, and he immediately understood that Sakage's becoming the champion of Kanto should be a certainty. At least 8 points have been nailed, and Team Flare's infiltration is really deep. It's an internal meeting, isn't it all leaked? Who are you? Eminem asked, pretending to be foolhardy. At this time, the giant pincer mantis behind him brought his pincers closer. Eminem immediately raised his hand. Seeing this, Jin laughed and said, "Mr. Eminem, don't be nervous. Although we cannot be understood by some mediocre people because of our lofty ideals, we have always respected the scientists who are willing to join. Believe me, are there still few scientists who have been silenced by you? Ideal. What ideal? Use this method of destroying the health of Pokémon to force Pokémon to evolve." Although Eminem raised his hand, he spoke firmly. In addition, Eminem also deliberately pretended not to see the fundamental problem of this mutated Ibrahimovic, so as to confuse Jin. Compared with forced evolution, Eminem thinks the bigger problem is their core research. It's the kind of power that degenerates Pokémon. This is just a small part of the great goal. Kin Jiu shook his head and said, but he didn't say much. But I've already said so much. Mr. Eminem should be willing to join, right? Believe me, you will have unimaginable gains. Jin said directly. Like blonde or something. Anyway, pull Amu over first. As for how to stabilize it, whether it is a beauty trap or destroyed directly, it will depend on the situation at that time. What if I don't want to? Eminem asked cautiously. Then I'm sorry. It's not easy to have such a young and excellent pharmacist in Kanto. And you are a genius who was taught by an unknown old pharmacist in Sangzhou town, right? An unknown old pharmacist master, the sister of a first-class pharmacist. Huh. Jin's threat was beyond words, but Amu heard from his tone. It seems that his information is also limited to M's pharmacy teacher is just an ordinary old lady. It's because of her own talent, and he doesn't know. Grandma Leix's pharmacist is definitely a master, and her identity is not that simple. Now Eminem naturally doesn't want to fight him hard, so he pretended to say, well, then what's the benefit if I join? It won't be just money, right? No. After Mr. Eminem understands our ideals, he will definitely be pleased with the current decision. However, if Mr. Eminem joins, he will definitely become a regular employee immediately. The boss will tell you our purpose at that time. In the mouth of the wine is very strict. Point. Just when Eminem thought he had fooled the other party for the time being, Vodka reached out and said, Mr. Eminem, please give me the elf ball for safekeeping first, and then I will change the place where the Pokémon is stored to our cultivation place. It's safer that way. Sure. Enough. It's not that easy to fool. After hesitating for a while, Eminem still gave his pocket to the other party to modify the storage point. There must be a net, and the trainer can operate it himself. Eminem is not worried that the other party will change it immediately. Eminem's Pokeball, in case he has any other ideas. By the way, Vodka also looked at Genji UI at the side, and Amu took it back temporarily when he saw this. At this time, Genji UI also had an aggrieved expression of I wanted to kill you, but my trainer insisted that I go back and quickly return to the Pokeball. Chapter 241 Instigating Rebellion. Vodka not only took Eminem's elf ball, but also searched Eminem's illustration book. Eminem also understands that it's useless to hit head on at this time. Right now, it's not a question of being attacked, but that Kinjiu is only a shield and sword monster, at least at the level of a heavenly king. He easily separated Genji UI from Eminem's shadow, and he couldn't be an opponent at all. If Eminem really agrees to join, it's not just a verbal agreement. The other party will not only threaten Eminem's family and friends, but also change all his Pokémon storage points to the organization point. If the Pokéball is too far away from the trainer, it will fail. But this range is still very wide. At least it is impossible to exceed the range in the research institute. At this time, the internal video contact was picked up again, and I saw that Dr. Zenghu and other research assistants had all been taken down. Unlike Dr. Oki and Dr. Jumu, Zenghu was not good at fighting Pokémon. There are no Pokémon that are too strong. As for Team Flare, besides the dozen or so people who sneaked in under the name of researchers, there were more people waiting for cooperation from inside and outside. At this time, they quickly took control of the entire research institute. And because the signal was cut off in advance, on the surface it still seems to be in its original state, and outsiders can't easily see that something happened to the institute. More importantly, this place is easy, and no outsiders pass by. Seeing that Dr. Zenghu has also been controlled, Kinjiu said to Zabeo, Zuli, then you come to test the level of the new members who are about to join. After talking about Jin, he left with Vodka, probably to Dr. Zenghu's side. But before leaving, they arranged for 2 peripheral members to guard the door of the second analysis room. This is the specific information of the multi-evolutionary Ibrahimovic. Take a look and give me a preliminary proposal in 2 hours. Is it okay? Shirley directly handed over a stack of information, as if she had already entered the working state as a matter of course. Eminem instinctively took it first, but she didn't organize her words in her heart. Ordinarily speaking, Shirley should be able to instigate rebellion now. It's just that now Eminem has to think about what to say when he comes here, and secondly, he also has to beware of bugging devices in the house. What's the name of that blonde long-haired one? Is it the same-sex close friend relationship with that fat one? Amu asked Shirley tentatively. After thinking about it, of course, Eminem didn't want to get the answer, but just wanted to try. Is Jin listening? Shirley looked up at him, and then said, his code name is Jin, as long as you know it. The others didn't bother to answer. Amu felt that it might not be hot enough, so he came closer, and asked Shirley in a low voice, have you guys been undercover recently? I heard people say, if it's Jin, there's no reason to pretend you didn't hear it. Even if everything else is put aside, Jin will definitely come to ask Eminem about rye whiskey. This is a top priority for Jin. Zuli's face froze when she heard that. That person Although she had never seen it before, she knew it because she had heard it from her sister. Don't ask about things that have nothing to do with you, or if you know where he is, Jin will thank you very much. If you don't know, just shut up. Shirley said with a cold voice. From Shirley's point of view, ZHU Crossing Da had defected from the organization, and she didn't know which party he was an undercover agent for, only that he was a scumbag who lied to her sister. Do you believe that I really know? Eminem said deliberately. Well, if Jin rushes back at this time, Eminem is going to tell him I heard about it from Mr. Jumu, but I don't know the specifics. It's just teasing the female doctor. Seeing young girls teasing, what's wrong? Very reasonable, right? But Jin didn't come back, so there was no wiretapping? Eminem deliberately asked again, to confirm. At this time, Shirley pretended to be surprised and said mockingly, you don't want to instigate me, do you? There is no wiretapping device here, because the laboratory here has an anti-eavesdropping function. Prepare how to convince me? You can try it, obviously. Shirley didn't think that the other party had any reason to convince her. Actually, I just met the mutant Ibrahimovic. It's the multi-evolved EV. Shirley corrected. Well, the communication I just had with the multi-evolutionary body Ibrahimovic has actually achieved some results. Its state is very special. It is not that it strongly rejects communication with the outside world, but it is unable to communicate. So, I actually saw it some fragments of memory. When Eminem said this, Shirley's expression was still skeptical. I saw that it has been receiving experiments since it was born, including that shiny thing that destroys genes. When Eminem mentioned that thing, Shirley's face changed. Obviously this was not something Eminem could make up by himself. I also saw that you only started to appear in the experiment in recent years, and you still have some concerns about it. Even when other experimenters wanted to destroy it, you kept proposing new possibilities. Shirley interrupted at this moment. Wait, don't make a mistake. I really only propose this for scientific research purposes, regardless of whether she admits it or not. Eminem interrupted directly. Let's not talk about this. More importantly, I saw that at the end, what it wanted to convey to me most was that Jin and the guy with the red-haired lion head said, you understand, her sister, the relationship with that guy. Don't worry, after this time, you won't have to see her again, Eminem said, imitating Jin's tone and expression. Shirley's face froze for a while. If Shirley had known before that her sister was now working hard to apply to leave the organization, then she must have been ready to run away. The devil believed that the organization would really agree to someone quitting, and it was Jin to test the tasks before quitting. Isn't that obvious? Seeing this, Eminem added, I don't think what he said was vodka. Do you have a sister? Shirley suddenly understood why the application to find Dr. Zheng Hu in the Kanto area went so smoothly this time, and also understood why her sister was in Kanto, but Jin used her sister's mission as an excuse to prevent them from meeting. You know, compared to Shirley, who is an important brain, her sister Mingmei is just a peripheral member of the organization without a code name. What important tasks can she have? Shirley was nervous for a while, and then felt powerless. She naturally knew the strength of the organization. If the organization was determined to kill herself and her sister, you lied. Shirley still wanted to escape. You know for yourself that I couldn't have made this up. I didn't know you before, let alone your sister. Eminem directly shattered her last fantasy. Seeing Shirley's expression, you understood. Although the situation is still very unfavorable, at least he now has a partner. Chapter 242 Degeneration. What? You don't have Pokémon? Eminem looked at Shirley in surprise. Is it weird? I don't want to be distracted from training Pokémon, Shirley said naturally. Seeing Eminem's unbelievable expression, Shirley also knew what he was thinking. Indeed, even researchers in this world would have assistant Pokémon, and you have to know that the Pokémon of the members of the organization are usually stored in the organization. Shirley hinted. Although he didn't say it clearly, Eminem also understood Shirley's meaning. As a member of the organization with Pokémon, there is also the weakness of being coerced, but in this way, Eminem is a little bit waxy. That is to say, the two of us still can't even get a Pokémon. Eminem said helplessly. As for Eminem's own Pokémon, they were all taken away by vodka before. Originally, I thought that if Shirley had Pokémon, at least there would be some force value to turn the tables. If only force is considered, even if I have Pokémon, it's useless. Jin's strongest ace is a Pokémon of the Great King level. Shirley reminded. Great Heavenly King class, that is, a Pokémon with a theoretical combat power of more than 120,000. No matter how much Eminem prepares in advance, one beating Eminem 6 will be light. Seeing Shirley's calm and eccentric look, Amu got a little annoyed, so she deliberately said, "Oh, I'll report you to Kinjiu later. Anyway, I don't have a traitor brother-in-law." Shirley. Seeing that Shirley was so stunned by herself, she couldn't help showing some fear in her eyes under the cover of plainness, and Eminem calmed down and comforted. Ahem, of course, we are not completely helpless, and it doesn't have to be a direct confrontation with Jin. Then, Eminem looked at mutated Ibrahimovic and said, "And, we actually still have a Pokémon now." "No. If it fights reluctantly, it will be more serious, and it can't be the opponent of Jin's Pokémon," Shirley said quickly. Amu looked at Shirley in surprise when she heard the words, and the latter quickly concealed her emotions. She saw some shadows of herself from this Ibrahimovic, so she couldn't help but respond to it beyond her own character concern. By acquiescing, is he substituting himself into the role of sister? But immediately Amu said, it doesn't mean that it needs to fight, even if it can go out and pass on the news. Team Flash's shameful. After all, no matter how many Junsha departments he infiltrates, it is still only infiltration after all, far from control. Once Junsha is mobilized on a large scale, they can only escape with their tails between their legs. Seeing that Shirley didn't speak, Eminem continued, and it's for its own sake. If even an eye is destroyed, then Team Flare won't be able to keep it, right, Zoo? Lee cheered up a little and said, "Give me the information just now, and I'll tell you the key points." Now, this multi-evolved Ibrahimovic is a chance for Eminem and Shirley to come back different from the perfunctory attitude just now. Shirley explained to Eminem patiently. At this time, of course, the so-called patience does not mean explaining in detail. On the contrary, it only talks about what she thinks is the key point. Although the categories of the two parties are different, Eminem is also an expert pharmacist. Shirley felt that with his foundation in this regard, he should be able to understand the key points only. The premise is that this expert level is really worthy of the name, and it was not created by hype in the Kanto area. In this way, the question that Eminem was most concerned about before was quickly answered. The thing that drives EV's degradation is the ancient energy that Team Flare found in the Kalos area. According to archaeology, 3,000 years ago, there was a giant human civilization in the Kalos area. At that time, the Kalos people were generally about 3 meters tall. Later, in a war that swept across the entire Kalos region 3,000 years ago, a giant king in the Kalos region created the final weapon. The loss of control of this weapon not only caused a large number of humans and treasures a Pokémon dies and ends the giant civilization. Fatally, that is, the red-haired lion-headed doctor that Eminem saw in Ibrahimovic's memory before later discovered the driving energy of the final weapon. The reason why the giant man was able to create the ultimate weapon was not because the power of science and technology surpassed the present, but mainly because of this energy. Its origin is unknown, and it can only be judged that it should not be a man-made product. In addition to supplying energy, it also has another function, which is to cause the gene to collapse. To use a more familiar term for Eminem, it is radiation. After listening to Shirley's description, Eminem felt that this thing was like a nuclear radiation source. It's just that the Pokémon in this world have a very special genetic form. After the gene collapses, they will not perish, but will degenerate. This feeling is like human gene collapses really collapse, and Pokémon's genes will look for a downward stable form of genes after collapse, that is, degeneration, and even if detected, the level will go backwards. Exposure to radiation for only a short period of time is only a temporary degeneration, and the mysterious behind the scenes boss of Team Flare, who later subdued Dr. Fraddery, aims to take advantage of this degeneration point. The so-called great goal is precisely to want the evolution of all mankind point, and this degeneration is also a way to study evolution. Then, what will happen if human genes are affected by this kind of thing? I mean, long-term or modified ancient energy influence. Eminem had already thought of something and hurriedly asked Shirley for confirmation. I will die, Shirley said succinctly. Must die. Eminem frowned. Shirley was silent for a while and was a little suspicious of Eminem's reaction, but she didn't ask any more questions, but added, there is also a very small probability that she won't die. Current research shows that the giant body back then, not all people are dead. The callous people now have the genes of the giant people back then. So, a very small number of people can survive and become children. Turned into a child? Didn't it become smaller? Eminem had already guessed the result, but still asked one more question. Considering that the giants in the Carlos area have become ordinary humans, shouldn't it be smaller? If there are very few lucky ones, they will become children, just like Pokémon will degenerate. It is the downward and stable recombination of genes, which will only manifest as age regression. If it becomes smaller, then it will direct gene collapse, Shirley said with certainty. Sure enough, Conan. No, Shinichi should be such a rare case. It's not some potion, nor some divine beast that is working, it's that he degenerates. Chapter 243 Calculation. Eminem also heard about Carlos's giant civilization after traveling, but he didn't study it carefully. As for the Great War 3000 years ago, it is true that there are also performances in the game. The king, who is 3 meters tall, also appeared in the game. But Eminem didn't expect that the reason why Zenai becomes smaller in the end actually fell here. Regarding the plan of Team Flare, Shirley can only say that as an official member. She only knows so much. Whether it is true or not, she does not know, and she has not even seen the real boss. Of course, Eminem only half believed this after all. Amu remembers that Haber AI at least knew the identity of the boss in the original work, but she didn't tell him because she was worried that Conan would be in danger. Eminem didn't bother with this either. The key now is Jin's current plan. According to what Shirley knows, Jin is planning to control Dr. Zenghu's research institute and cut off contact with the outside world for at least 2 days. During these 2 days, the Jin Club will try its best to absorb Dr. Zenghu into the organization. If it fails, it will take away all the research materials here and then cover everything up with an explosion disguised as an accident. Of course, this is just what I know. I'm afraid what Jin told me was not the truth. Shirley obviously understood that if Jin really wanted to kill herself, then he would tell himself. The plan is not entirely credible, but they are indeed interested in Dr. Zenghu's research. Isn't it just to bring you to Kanto? Amu repeatedly confirmed. Well, Dr. Zenghu is a scientist they started to pay attention to before. Shirley's answer reassured Amu a little. Amu was even more worried that Jin and the others were not interested in Zenghu, so there might be a murder happening downstairs right now. What do you think about it? Shirley said, looking at the multi-evolutionary Ibrahimovic point. Shirley has just informed Eminem of the main points of its research. I have some ideas, but if I want to make them useful for the time being, there are only 2 possibilities. I need to plan again, Eminem said with a little hesitation. Just then Jin came back. However, Eminem continued to look at the information directly, thinking hard. There was no need to pretend at all, and Shirley still had a cold face. Even if it was Jin, she didn't immediately see any problems. How is our new member? Jin asked Shirley directly. He looks like he regards Shirley as one of his own and is still using her to assess Eminem. Ah, you an expert pharmacist? Heh, it's average. Shirley also acted out the reaction of this person is nothing special. However, Jin, who understands Shirley's attitude, understands that since she did not directly deny Eminem's expert level, it can be seen that Eminem does have the level of an expert pharmacist. That is, an ordinary expert pharmacist. Considering Eminem's age, he is not considered ordinary. At least he is a genius second only to Shirley. It's just a pity that he is obviously good at pharmacy. In fact, Shirley's Pokémon evolution expertise is very suitable for the needs of the organization. But unfortunately, Kinjiu didn't show his thoughts at all and just said, "Then, Mr. Eminem, come downstairs with me first. Dr. Zhenghu should also need your help." Shirley didn't say much at this time, but just put Ibrahimovic back into the nutrition cabin, reconnected all the tests, opened and closed it, and injected the nutrition solution. Eminem came downstairs with Jin, Dr. Zhenghu's laboratory. At this time, although Dr. Zhenghu's face was livid, he was still operating the console. In addition, his assistants were missing a lot, replaced by some people wearing Shahou Research Institute costumes. Eminem guessed that Jin had kidnapped other research assistants and was threatening Zhenghu, and at the same time, he did not forget to use more insiders to monitor him. "Mr. Eminem has also joined us. I hope you will work together in the future. Now, let's export all the information first. Dr. Zhenghu, this is all your hard work, so don't leave anything behind," Kinjiu said with a smile. Obviously, Jin still believes in Eminem's "if you can't beat it, join." But for Zhenghu, who has a strong sense of justice, Jin doesn't trust him at all, and he is basically ready to silence him. And Eminem is sure that, even if Zhenghu is really willing to join, Jin will definitely silence most of the research assistants. In addition, what makes Eminem nervous is that Jin is now tossing Dr. Zhenghu's research materials. Could it be? Won't wait for 2 days at all. Amu made up his mind immediately and said, "By the way, Dr. Zhenghu, I have a new idea about the spiritual link." After talking with Dr. Zibao just now, Zhenghu looked at Eminem with a puzzled face. "Is this the time to talk about this? Did you really join Team Flare?" Jin frowned at the sight. "What do you think? What did Shirley tell you?" "No, it's mainly my idea," Eminem emphasized, as if he was emphasizing that it was his own credit. "At present, it is impossible for the spiritual link to succeed. But, if it is me who already has similar special abilities, and the Ibrahimovic who is in a special situation, it may be successful." At this time, Amu specifically emphasized, "It's just that the safety of that Ibrahimovic may not be guaranteed." Dr. Zibao seems to be, ahem, "It's up to you to decide whether to do this experiment." It's as if Shirley rejected Eminem's experiment because of concerns about Ibrahimovic's safety. Zhenghu looked at Eminem eagerly from the sidelines. It would be even worse if he could succeed. Wouldn't that mean more information would fall into the hands of these people? After hearing the words, Kinjiu felt relieved a lot. "Oh, is that so? Then you can try it first." Jin seemed to be doing experiments now because it was convenient. In fact, what I think in my heart is that Zhenghu and Shirley will be silent in the future. Although there are materials, it is not certain when they will be able to completely replicate their results. So I agree to carry out the experiment. That Eminem said. "Now, let them play their final role." Zhenghu was about to say something, but Amu emphasized, "Drive Zhenghu, just improve as you said before." "I know, normally, even if you change it, it won't work, but there are Dr. Shahou. If the target is still the EV, it should be fine." Seeing Zhenghu's ugly face, Jin somewhat believed that Eminem belonged to that kind of research madman. The three views in the organization were in harmony, but at this moment, a member of Team Flare hurried in and whispered something in Jin's ear. After hearing this, Jin looked at Eminem coldly. "Do you have a date with your friends tonight? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels." Chapter 244 Positive. Hearing Kinjiu's question, secretly said it's not good in her heart. 9 times out of 10, it's Xiaoxia, Yuanzi and Li Jia who came to find her and go back to Hualan together. Just so Zhenghu Research Institute lost its signal again. I wonder if they will notice something is wrong. Eminem hopes they don't find anything, otherwise it will be more dangerous. It should be friends who went to the beach to play, just stopped by to find me, and go back together, right? I can tell them that they will stay overnight with Dr. Zhenghu tonight. Eminem said naturally. Jin didn't speak, but Eminem shook his head and said, they are the daughters of the owner of Boyan, the daughter of the owner of Hanamaru, and the third lady of the Suzuki group. Our flame team can't easily make enemies, right? Speaking of the influence of the Suzuki group, the owner of the Boyan pavilion is Hualan, Eminem. Said we, but he didn't let Jin take it lightly. There's just one thing Eminem was right about. Team Flare is brutal, but they are also cautious, that don't bark when they bite type, who stay still, and try to kill them all. In this case, they should also try to avoid making excessive enemies. Then, I'll go with you. Of course Kinjiu was worried, and Eminem went to fool them by himself. Eminem also understood this truth, and did not refuse. When she came to the entrance of the research institute, Xiaoxia immediately complained, what's going on here, Uncle Zhenghu? Why is there no signal? Oh, there is something wrong with the signal tower. Eminem said naturally, huh? Did you forget to take your bag? Yuanzi found that Eminem came out empty-handed. No, you go back to the Pokémon Center first. My research with Dr. Zhenghu is quite compatible, so I will stay here for a few days. Eminem proposed to stay overnight. Alright, you guys are really hardworking. What will I bring you tomorrow? Xiaoxia was taken aback for a moment before responding. Because Xiaoxia will come to the beach to train Pokémon tomorrow, Sonoko and Legia will continue to discuss the matter of the Pharmacy Research Institute, so if Amu wants something, they can bring it along. Then, Mu's heart turned sharply, thinking about whether to emphasize dark beer every time Yumi asked Mu to drink. Mu would drink juice or milk, and Yumi likes dark beer. If Xiaoxia was clever enough, she might have guessed that she was implying that she would call the police. What Mu hesitated in this flash of light was whether Xiaoxia would directly behave strangely and arouse Kinjiu's suspicion. Ahem. Jin coughed twice behind Eminem. After hearing this, Eminem stopped thinking and said, no need, Dr. Zhenghu has everything here. Now that Jin was on alert, Eminem didn't intend to hint anymore. Seeing Xiaoxia and the others leave, Eminem felt relieved and a little disappointed, but the latter didn't show it. After returning to the research institute, Kinjiu found that Shirley was already in front of Zhenghu, seeming to be talking about something, and Zhenghu's face was ugly. Seeing this scene, Kinjiu's face was also a bit ugly, but because other peripheral members of the organization were also in the room, it seemed that Shirley was not plotting anything, so Kinjiu was a little relieved. However, he didn't find it strange. At this time, only he and Vodka knew that Shirley's sisters would be silenced, and even Shirley didn't know about it. Therefore, in the eyes of other peripheral members, although Shirley was a researcher, she was not their direct superiors, but their status is not comparable to them. As long as Shirley doesn't do anything strange, they won't be able to stop them, and they will even be sent instead. Zhu Li, did you find anything? Kinjiu asked. Shirley frowned and looked at Eminem and said, you said you want Ibrahimovic with multiple evolutions to cooperate with you in the spiritual link experiment? You need to know. Okay. You just need to cooperate with the experiment. Kinjiu interrupted directly. Kinjiu could see that Shirley was really worried about Ibrahimovic. At this time, Shirley didn't use acting skills at all, and Eminem had never played against her before, and Eminem hadn't even had time to tell her the plan she thought of. Eminem said before that there are two options, but now he is going to use two prongs. One is that Eminem considers using pacifying psychotropic drugs to relieve Ibrahimovic's mental symptoms, and the other is the spiritual link. Eminem feels that Ibrahimovic's current mental abnormality may be exploited instead. If Eminem can completely connect with Ibrahimovic, then you can use Ibrahimovic's body to go outside for help. TCH. Shirley really showed a dissatisfied expression, and even gave Eminem a look, but she didn't have any other extreme reactions, and she seemed to have agreed by default. Jin was not surprised by this. After all, based on his understanding of Shirley, unless she knew that she would kill their sisters tomorrow, she would never have the guts to resist the organization. In addition to Team Flare's research assistant, Jin and Vodka have been keeping an eye on the lab in shifts. Gradually Eminem is more like the leader of this joint research and development. After all, both Zhenghu and Zuli were a little reluctant at this time. and the overall idea was planned in Eminem's mind alone, and he didn't tell anyone, and the others were just cooperating with him. First of all, Amu asked Zenghu to work overtime overnight to make some adaptive adjustments to the original Spirit Link equipment based on the data collected by Amu himself. Secondly, Eminem and Shirley, referring to the data of the multi-evolutionary Ibrahimovic, started to configure the potion together. Zenghu and Zuli didn't stay idle that night, they just stayed overnight and moved on to the next day. Seeing Eminem's excited and impatient look, Jin became more and more sure this guy is probably the kind of research madman. If this is the case, it is a good thing for the organization. Seeing that it was already the next afternoon, Jin left the laboratory but let Vodka continue to stare at it. Seeing this, Amu broke into a cold sweat for Shirley's sister and at the same time felt relieved. I don't know if Jin is going to solve Mingmi, but it is indeed a good thing for Eminem that he can leave. The strength of Vodka is not weak, but this is not a question of force. After Jin left, Eminem felt a lot less pressure and urged Zenghu and Shirley even more, hoping to finish the war while Jin was away. Plan is the best. Only Shirley. Dr. Shirley? Seeing Shirley's distracted look, Eminem couldn't help feeling worried. Apparently Shirley also thought of it. The reason why Jin Jiu left at this time is probably the most important thing now is that the experiment can be successful. You should not worry about its safety. Amu was talking about the experimental subject Ibrahimovic in name, but in fact he was secretly advising Shirley. At this time, he was worried that others would not be able to change the status quo. Chapter 245 Out of Control. Now we have escaped this catastrophe ourselves before we have a chance to think about other things. Amu looked at Shirley seriously with such eyes. Seeing this, Shirley managed to calm down. At this time, urgent will only add to the chaos. Try to complete the experiment before Jin comes back so that you have the best chance. After working overtime without sleep, finally on the second day, that is, the night of August 10th, Amu directed Zenghu and Shirley to complete the corrected spiritual link device. Ha ha ha. It worked, Eminem said happily, looking at the smoothly scrolling data on the screen. Seeing this, Vodka changed his expression and said, "Oh, Mr. Eminem has succeeded? The three of you should rest now." Vodka estimated that only Eminem would be able to wake up later, and the other two could be silenced without pain, which is considered a good result. But Amu shook his head at this moment and said, "No, I can try it now. Only in this way can I get accurate data, and it is very likely that Ibrahimovic's problem will be solved immediately." Now, okay. Vodka didn't care about the Ibrahimovic that was about to be destroyed, but heard that Eminem said that he had to come and activate it himself to collect accurate data, so there was no reason to refuse. Otherwise, the whole day before, wouldn't it be a waste of work? Are you really going to do this? That Ibrahimovic? Zenghu didn't quite understand the ferocity of Team Flash, thinking that he would leave just after grabbing the experimental materials. At this time, Zenghu's mood was very conflicted. On the one hand, he felt that it was impossible for Eminem to join the Flame Team so easily. On the other hand, he also felt that Eminem was really too active now. Team Flare at work, it was also his true attitude that lied Jin to him before. It doesn't matter, I'm 80% sure that I can solve this Ibrahimovic's problem, but if it's the 2 points, Eminem said and looked at Vodka again. Eminem had asked Jin for advice on this issue before, so Vodka said without hesitation, "It's okay, Mr. Eminem just fights for it. There are some things that can't be helped, right, Shirley?" HMPH. Shirley turned her head aside at this time, losing her temper and unwilling to talk to Vodka. Vodka asked Eminem to continue to host the experiment, but Shirley said at this time, the spiritual link device has disadvantages. It will be disturbed by other people's mental fluctuations, and the idlers will leave the laboratory, leaving only the three of us. Vodka frowned when she heard that, but looked at the bulletproof glass wall and immediately relaxed again. It was the same from the outside. There was only one door. Could she still escape? So Vodka led the others back out first, monitoring the actions inside through the transparent bulletproof glass wall. I saw Eminem on the experimental platform at this time and put on the hood of various unidentified pipelines the multi-evolved Ibrahimovic was also placed opposite Eminem at this time point. At this moment, Zeng, who didn't understand at all what Eminem was going to do just for the success of the spiritual link experiment. Obviously, I didn't see that Eminem had such a big obsession with his subject. On the contrary, Zuli had a vague guess and quietly retreated to the side console, ready to cooperate. The instrument is activated. The adjusted spiritual link instrument and Eminem's animal senses complement each other. I saw that under the overload of operating power, not only the various pipelines on Eminem's hood began to emit sparks, but also Eminem himself began to bleed from his eyes and nose. Vodka was taken aback when he saw this and thought it was a problem with the experiment now that he had also regarded Eminem as the spare tire that his elder brother had found to replace Shirley, so he naturally didn't want anything to happen to him. Wait, what's going on? Vodka hurriedly opened the door and barged in. But at this moment, Eminem's hood made a muffled bang, followed by black smoke, and the surroundings were instantly dark, as if a short circuit. Is there no backup power supply in such a huge laboratory? Before Vodka felt strange, a strong wind suddenly hit him, and at the same time, a flash of lightning flashed in front of his eyes. Fortunately, Vodka's Blue Emperor and Big Steel Snake responded in time, and Vodka avoided being directly attacked. The thunder struck the Big Steel Snake, only to hear the crisp sound of dang dang, and then there was another cry of pain from outside the door. Immediately after, at this time, there was also a call, and Vodka guessed that the backup power supply had been activated. Of course, Shirley controlled the power on and off. She couldn't pretend to have a power outage for too long. Otherwise it would be too obvious. Even if Eminem's plan is successful in this step, she can only go out to ask for help. She and Dr. Zeng, who even Eminem himself, are still in the research institute, so they can't be rushed with Vodka engine. And after the surrounding lights up, Vodka saw, at this time, Eminem not only passed out with blood from his eyes and nose, but also had severe trauma on his body. A lot of blood flowed out. Vodka went forward to check for a while, and knew that the not so shallow wound was caused by sharp claws. And the multi-evolved EV that was originally used as an experiment has disappeared at this time. Vodka immediately imagined what happened just now. It seems that the experiment failed, and the multi-evolutionary Ibrahimovic suddenly lost control. Not only attacked Eminem, but also rushed out, while taking advantage of the short-term circuit failure, chasing. Vodka shouted hastily. At the same time, he turned his head to look in Shirley's direction, showing a tangled expression. Vodka was not at ease when other people chased that Ibrahimovic, but if he also chased, Shirley would have no one to watch. Although Shirley doesn't have Pokémon, her combat power is negligible, but the others present were all outsiders of the organization, and they were expected to look at Shirley, who was one of the core researchers, in case Shirley knew that her elder brother was going to silence her tonight. Quick, don't be dazed, get the emergency medicine, Zuli said hastily. Vodka was stunned when he heard the words, and then decided not to leave. He just ordered his subordinates to go to the infirmary to get the medicines. Am had an opening in his abdomen, and he really needed to stop the bleeding. At the same time, Alib was running in the Zenghu Research Institute. Although there were Pokémon chasing after it, fortunately there was no one faster than it after all. The running speed of Rabe was already very outstanding. And at this time, the eyes of Rabe did not have the usual confusion and irritability, but calm and wise. Not only was he running in the corridor smoothly, as if he knew the way, but he even kicked open the bathroom door in a very orderly manner, then rushed into the bathroom, smashed through the window and left. It's like knowing from the beginning that only the bathroom window can be broken by it. Chapter 246 Iron-039 M not stable. What a crap. So far, Eminem's plan is very simple, but also very risky. That is to use the spiritual link to completely control the mutant Ibrahimovic, or in other words, to keep his ghost upper body state for a long time, and at a long distance. In this state, not only Eminem's special ability and the spiritual link device are indispensable, but also, it would be difficult for Eminem to do it with other Pokémon. The special state of this Ibrahimovic is also a necessary factor from this point of view. Eminem really didn't like a Jin, but after really controlling Ibrahimovic, what Eminem has to do is naturally different from what he promised Jin. First, He attacked the self who was temporarily unconscious and pretended that the experiment had failed so as not to be associated with it. It was the experimental subject Ibrahimovic who was controlled by him. In order to make his coma look natural, Eminem did not even start light. Then Amy controlled Ibrahimovic's body, first evolved into Libu's form, and then ran desperately. The scene where Shirley drives out the vodka really made Eminem very impressed. The two of them didn't have time to play against each other before. It all depends on the performance on the spot. Otherwise, Eminem can only pretend to be dizzy and wait for the vodka to open the door. Vodka also didn't expect that the reason Shirley let herself out was not for anything else, but because vodka would open the door to come in when an emergency happened. If Jin was present, I'm afraid it would not be so easy to fool. Taking advantage of this gap, Eminem also rushed out. The level of this Ibrahimovic is not low. It has reached more than 50 levels, but its genes and emotions are extremely unstable, and it cannot fight normally, and even this growth level should be urged. But this has already made its running speed not slow. Turn off the lights. Shirley was indeed gambling, but, after all, vodka's trump card is also at the king level. Although it is not as good as gin, it is not something that Ibrahimovic's body can deal with. It must be taken by surprise. Fortunately, she did win the bet. Him also saw her movements before starting the experiment and guessed that she might turn off the lights at this time, so she was more prepared, and Ibrahimovic kept his eyes closed. M opened his eyes only after the surroundings got dark, so he was naturally more accustomed to the darkness at the same time. Eminem also knows that there are only a few windows that can be broken in the research institute. It's also fortunate that Armu is usually on Alan and Arduin before his evolution, and occasionally uses the ghost upper body to assist training, or simply familiarize himself with his animal perception ability, so he also has a good understanding of how to run on four legs. Very familiar. And Eminem has already used the animal sense in the normal state to change the skills for Ibrahimovic, and now he is using Volt replacement. Pokémon without a trainer can use this trick in the wild and temporarily stay in a free state. Although there is no Pokeball for him to hide, his extraordinary movements afterwards are extremely fast and better than a lightning flash. The moment he jumped down from the bathroom on the second floor, Eminem felt that he had already succeeded in half. Although there were people guarding the gate, they didn't react when the incident happened suddenly, and Leap had already jumped out from the low wall. Isn't this already stable? As long as there is no problem with the state of the spiritual link. Just when Eminem was about to cheer in his heart, he suddenly saw Jin came back riding the moat dragon, and Rehab happened to pass over his head at this time. Everything around him seemed to be playing back in slow motion at this time, and Jin looked up in surprise and found that it was after Rehab originally. Eminem still had the last sliver of luck in his heart, that is, Jin could not recognize that this was just an experimental Ibrahimovic. After all, under his spiritual link at this time, this looked like a healthy Rehab. But Eminem obviously thought too much. Jin doesn't need to recognize it at all. Just this Lee ran out of the research institute is enough for Jin to shoot directly without asking other questions. I saw Kin directly drawing the sword, and the sword body part of the sword monster suddenly emitted a larger circle of sword light like a lightsaber, sweeping towards Libu. Fighting skills, holy sword immediately. Lieb was like a tiger that had been shoveled, and the blood burst directly on his abdomen. It was also the first time for Eminem to see such a brutal guy. This was a killing intent without hesitation at all, and the resulting killing intent was also very direct. Not only is the Jin ruthless enough, but his Pokémon didn't hesitate at all. Similarly, at this time, Emu also felt a sharp pain in his abdomen, as if his stomach had been ripped apart. Fortunately, Eminem was still conscious. At this time, he tried his best to continue to pounce forward, and continued to roll forward. As soon as he landed, this place is already on the edge of a cliff. Even if he jumped into the sea, it would be better than lying in front of Jin and being hit by it. At the same time as he fell, Eminem also immediately activated the water-based skill, water flowing, and at the same time, he saw the body of Rehab flickering, and then, The body that was originally covered with spiky hair became round, and the tail became larger, and appeared out of the shape of a fish's tail. After the light dissipated, it suddenly turned into a Shuyibu in the middle of the full point at the same time. A group of water curtain also wraps Shuyibu at this time. This is the effect of water flowing. The water system power-ups itself and heals the injury. With Shu Ibrahimovic's strength and adaptability to water, even if he entered the water from such a height, he did not receive too much impact, and the water splash was firmly pressed. The multi-evolved EV, the way to stimulate evolution is to use the skills of the corresponding attributes, water, fire, electricity, and grass. Using the skills of these 4 systems will evolve into the corresponding evolution. In the unevolved EV state, you can master 4 evolved EV skills and carry 4 of them. After evolution, including the skills that promote evolution, there will be 4 evolved body skills. Plus unevolved EV Ibrahimovic itself has 3 other skills, a total of 7 skills. Moreover, the adaptability characteristic of Ibrahimovic itself will also be retained, in addition to being mentally unstable, and even genetically unstable, and would suddenly degenerate. This Ibrahimovic has quite powerful traits Eminem used, animal perception, before to guide this EV to switch skills. Crazy Volt is good at escaping, and it is also an electric type, and can cut to the fastest running Lebu. Water flowing restores stamina, and can turn into water boo. Jumping into the sea was originally one of the worst situations that Eminem was prepared for. However, this scene was also seen by Kinjiu, who was driven to the edge of the cliff. This time, Kinjiu was even more murderous. He was sure that this Ibrahimovic was the experimental subject. I saw that Kinjiu directly released a steel armored crow and swooped down on Shuyibo Point at this time. Eminem has basically confirmed that the trainer of Jin tends to be steel type. It's not that Eminem didn't expect to be seen by Jin just now, but it's that Eminem had no choice. If he fell into the water from such a height in the state of rehab and an injured rehab, it's very likely 89 Amu really fainted. No, it should be said that he really woke up in the research room, and this EV fainted. Point finding that steel armored crow was chasing myself. Amu quickly controlled Shuyibu's body and swam towards the sea surface, but the healing effect of water flow ring was not so immediate, and steel armored crow could even see the line of blood floating on the sea, followed and culled into the water. Even though Eminem had gone as far downstream as possible, there was still a pain in the back, and his consciousness was almost lost. Chapter 247 Drifting. Amu clenched his teeth and let out a cry of pain, but he didn't dare to stop at all, only to see Shuyibu's 4 legs and tail continue to tug and swim downstream, and finally escaped for the time being. Steel armored crow is not an aquatic Pokémon after all, and even among bird Pokémon, it is particularly difficult to enter the water after a wave of dives. After adding more wounds to Shuyibu's back, he was unable to pursue further, and floated back with a flick of his wings. At this time, Jin and the steel armored crow who had just flown back had a little exchange, and then frowned and looked at the sea below. The bad news was that he failed to kill that EV, but the good news was that one Ibrahimovic was severely injured twice, and he was in the sea again at this time, so he should not survive. After all, Suzumi is only an amphibious Pokémon, not an aquatic Pokémon. Jumping from here, the surroundings are still far away from the place where he can go ashore. Kinjiu, who has always been cautious, after a little hesitation, turned on the crow and prepared to patrol the sea again to ensure that the other party died completely. But at this moment, the sea quickly fogged up, and the fog came quickly and thickly. It was night again, and Kinjiu rode a steel armored crow and flew not far away, so he couldn't see clearly, so he had to turn around and flew back. And just a second after Kinjiu patted the steel armored crow to signal it to turn back, a Shuyibu appeared on the surface of the sea, and Kinjiu could see it a little later in the morning. It's not that Eminem wants to show the extreme operation, but that he can't hold it anymore. This Ibrahimovic's body is also approaching the limit at this time. At this time, even just floating on the sea, he had already exhausted all his strength. After Jin returned to the research institute, he was naturally furious, and he also severely reprimanded his younger brother Vodka. After Vodka explained the situation, He lowered his head and dared not speak more. Then Jin went to the infirmary and saw Shirley, who had just bandaged Mu. As for Mu, of course she was still in a coma. What's going on? Kin Jiu didn't mean to be polite or condolences and asked directly in a deep voice. The experiment was half successful. It is true that after the spiritual link, the multi-evolutionary Ibrahimovic recovered most of its chaotic spirit, but probably because it has memories of humans and also has a deep hatred. After a little recovery, it attacked Eminem frantically and then escaped. Shirley said flatly. But Shirley was also beating drums in her heart. Why did Jin come back so soon? How is my sister? When Jin came back, did you see Ibrahimovic? So what were you doing? Jin was unmoved by Shirley's explanation. What? Of course it's what an assistant should do. Shirley frowned slightly, showing some impatience, and added, I don't have a Pokémon. Do you expect me to stop it? Jin glanced at Eminem and found that his injuries were not fake, so he didn't suspect anything. Just after looking at Shirley for a while, he pulled out the sword monster with strong shield directly. Seeing this, Shirley couldn't help shrinking her pupils. Her own danger is one aspect, and at the same time, she also thought, since Jin Jiu is going to do it now, could it be that her sister has already? At the same time, Eminem was on the surface of the sea, struggling to swim to the shore with all his strength, but, due to lack of physical strength, he had degenerated back into the body of Ibrahimovic, and he was still engulfed by the sea water. To go further floating in the ocean. I do not know how long it has been. Even because of the thick fog on the sea, Eminem could only vaguely see a little light from the Hulan lighthouse at this time. And nothing else. Oops, it seems that I can't swim back. Already starting to feel dizzy. Are you going to wake up? No, in this situation, can you really wake up? Will it become a vegetable? Emu's heart is getting more and more uncertain, and at the same time, he only feels that his consciousness is getting more and more drowsy. The room was leaking, and it was raining continuously. I don't know if it was an illusion. Emma gradually felt that the waves on the sea seemed to be a little bigger. At this time Willang, a burst of deep and distant voices came from the direction of the distant sea point. When I heard it for the first time, Eminem hadn't reacted yet because Ibrahimovic's body lost too much blood, and the water flowing couldn't come back. Eminem kept his consciousness in this body to fight for it. Opportunities have already been exhausted. Willang, but with this sound, Eminem's animal sense was suddenly and naturally touched. At the second sound, Eminem's instinct was excited. This feeling was like being hooked up directly on the spiritual level. However, immediately afterwards, Eminem had no time to rejoice, because after such a stimulus, Eminem was somewhat unable to maintain the current state. In a trance, a sea of fog and nothing, and the ceiling of the laboratory room with glare lights. Two perspectives flashed alternately in Eminem's consciousness. Eminem seemed to be unable to maintain the remote ghost upper body. The state is gone. Willang, but at this moment, Eminem's consciousness suddenly stabilized again. As if a certain kind of consciousness was directly connected with Eminem's spirit. Eminem estimated that when he used animal senses to establish contact with other Pokémon, the other party should feel the same way. Right, Willang, the sound in the distance is getting closer, and at the same time, the waves on the sea are getting heavier. Fortunately, the height of the visitor is only 100 or 200 meters, and the weight converted is only 100 and 200,000 tons. It is not a mobile island like the Elephant Lord, so the waves caused are not very large, let alone the scope. It's very wide, and Eminem is not very surprised. No wonder. Amu gradually saw in the thick fog that the owner of the huge voice was also the figure that caused the waves, and maybe even the source of the dense fog. The seawater tens of meters deep, let alone its stomach, is because its legs are short enough and its stomach is low enough. I saw this huge figure in the dense fog. Even if we approached, we could only see some outlines. A somewhat plump body, the wings behind, and the two huge searchlight-like eyes on the top of the head. The two tentacles were faintly illuminated. No, it should be said to be dragon horns. At first glance, if you have to say that this thing is a giant version of Pokémon, it must be Quick Dragon. But In terms of proportion, the wings are also bigger than Koalong, and the horns on the head, it does not appear to be as slender and soft as Koalong's tentacles, and it is by no means an amplification of Koalong's somewhat cute body. Moreover, under the dense fog, Eminem saw its huge body, but it was also faintly visible. There was a feeling of a mountain coming over, full of oppression. Fortunately, it's not the secret world, otherwise Eminem might loosen. Wulang. Wulang, what do you? The other party's consciousness was directly passed into Eminem's consciousness. Eminem only hesitated for a moment, then decisively asked for help. I'm a human being. Now the consciousness is in this body. I want to ask for help. Chapter 248. Are you the boss? Eminem didn't expect that this big guy could actually communicate with him, so he quickly explained it in a long way, lest the other party think he was using Ibrahimovic to do a bad experiment, and then he would be regarded as an evil guy and wiped out. After all, judging from Zhenghu's description, this guy, although it looks a bit out of sync because of its size, but it belongs to the good-natured Pokémon. Then Eminem felt it too, as Zhenghu said, the feeling of suddenly having a rising platform beneath him. A palm with a diameter of 20 to 30 meters, or a dragon claw, scooped up Eminem. At this time, Army also noticed that not only the dragon scales on this fast dragon were denser and clearer, but also the sharp claws were extraordinarily long. On the head, there are angular cuticles, and the joints also have a sense of strength, although if they are all painted in a pixel style, they are indeed very similar to Koalong. But when you look closely, they appear majestic, with a bit of viciousness. Feeling the breathing breath from such a big dragon head, Eminem was a little timid for a while. Such a fragile consciousness could communicate with me? Has human technology reached this level again? The super huge fast dragon directly transmitted the consciousness into Eminem's mind. Mew was taken aback for a moment, and then suddenly understood what it meant. It is true that the way that to communicate with each other is somewhat high-end. The consciousness communication of the giant fast dragon is different from animal perception. It is very large, and ordinary Pokémon or humans should not be able to bear it. However, Eminem's animal perception, although it is only the ability of sequence 8, and not strong enough, but the potential is here, and it can still be picked up. Wulang, Wulang. The huge fast dragon suddenly screamed twice again, and at the same time that Armu felt being moved by the air current, he saw waves of unknown power turning into little fast dragons and pouring into the Yi continuously cloth body. Immediately, Eminem's previous feeling of the body is about to be overwhelmed disappeared. At the same time, this power, after pouring into the body, is no longer unknown in Eminem's eyes, but is clearly general energy, that is, mysterious guardian. Indeed, as Koalong grows up, he can naturally learn mysterious guardianship, which can prevent himself and his sheltered companions from falling into an abnormal state, which is said to have no healing effect. But just look at the painting style and you will know that the mysterious guardianship used by this huge fast dragon is like heaven is coming. And the little fast dragons that are like angels condensed by energy, all of them are beautiful, lifelike. After falling from the sky, it merged into Ibrahimovic's body. As far as this special effect is concerned, Eminem thinks it is normal for it to have more functions. It's just that Eminem feels that the lost physical strength has not recovered. It seems that the target's injury is also regarded as an abnormal state and cleared out of the protection range. Thanks, my friends, who are still being hijacked by the villain. Can you help? Eminem hurriedly wanted to ask for further help. Just now Eminem's consciousness, when Ibrahimovic and himself alternated back and forth, Eminem vaguely heard the sound of Jin. At this time, it would be too late to swim back to Hualan Port with Ibrahimovic's body to ask for help, not to mention that he was only recovering from his injuries. And his physical strength was still not enough. That's too late. But it will give you a rest. The consciousness conveyed by the giant fast dragon just appeared in Eminem's mind, and the next moment it began to clamp hands. This time, Eminem only felt the platform under him bulge in all directions. Fortunately, the other party didn't want to crush Eminem to death. There was still a space in the middle. In the pitch blackness, Eminem suddenly became dizzy, and felt as if the surrounding air was being evacuated. The next moment, The huge fast dragon opened his palm, and after seeing the light of day again, Amu found that the surroundings were very different. It's not because of the dense fog. You can't see clearly 10 meters away, and even such a big koala can only see some outlines. And even, it's no longer on the sea. I saw that the vegetation covered here also appeared to be extremely large, and the air was extremely fresh at this time. Eminem, who was still in the body of Ibrahimovic, only felt that my physical strength was recovering rapidly between breaths, and Eminem finds out, it's daytime here. Could it be the other side of the planet Hezhang area? Carlos area, why are you here all of a sudden? You can recover as soon as possible, and then save your compatriots by yourself. The huge fast dragon continues to communicate with Eminem consciousness in this way beyond language. However, Eminem feels that, although the other party is more powerful and heavy, in terms of subtlety, it is still superior to animal senses. It can convey consciousness more clearly and coherently. In addition, under the light, Eminem found that the huge fast dragon was more recognizable as a fast dragon. No, even if I go back, I can't beat the bad guys. And, can I really go back? Eminem asked with some concern. Anytime, you can, but if you don't have enough strength, you can't help it, said the huge fast dragon, and sat down. Of course, with Kualang's body proportions, he is not too short after sitting down. In Eminem's view, it is still a hill. In addition, Eminem's imagination is different. This huge fast dragon does not seem to be as urgent and righteous as imagined. Are you usually unable to move to the other side? Eminem is talking about the other side of the planet. Eminem also faintly felt that this was a bit unreasonable because no such big fast dragon had been found in the Hezhang area and the Carlos area. It's just that I don't have time to think about it now. You can say that. The giant fast dragon does not reject communicating with Eminem. I don't understand what's going on, but there is a crazy idea faintly in Eminem's mind. It seems there is another way. Are you a boss Pokémon? Eminem asked expectantly. Eminem was thinking before. Could this huge fast dragon belong to the category of boss Pokémon? Maybe after all, there used to be 9 boss Pokémon in Guandu that were larger than the average boss. So, maybe there might be even bigger and bigger bosses than the average boss. The giant fast dragon was silent for a while, and Eminem guessed the other party's emotions, although the language is barrier. But, Eminem's animal senses, the transmission of consciousness is very clear. It clearly makes the giant fast dragon feel that his force has been lowered. Eminem felt that there was a smile behind the of the giant fast dragon. Chapter 249, The Connection Between People and the Boss Pokémon. Knowing that the huge fast dragon in front of him is indeed similar to the boss Pokémon, at least in nature, Ibrahimovic immediately brightened his eyes and quickly asked, then can we have some relationship? Just like boss Pokémon and humans. Amu didn't dare to say directly that he would let the huge fast dragon follow him. After all, this oppressive feeling is completely different from the cute Shirabi. Some organizations will not calmly play the idea of the beast, but Eminem feels that no matter how crazy the organization is, it will calm down when it sees the huge fast dragon in front of it. Relation? The huge fast dragon actually cared a bit. Am suddenly felt a little dreamy. Is it really possible to agree? Could it be that I was still soaking in the sea and had hallucinations? Okay, but I'm sleeping, unable to make a move. The huge fast dragon was passing on its own consciousness while understanding the consciousness that Eminem kept passing on. Not long ago, in Ziyuan town, Eminem learned a skill that he thought he would never use in this lifetime. Now, in my heart, Eminem is sincerely thankful for his eagerness to learn. He clearly felt that it was not necessary, but he still read the easy to learn edition material sent back by Mr. Jumu. This allows Eminem to subdue the leader Pokémon, even if the other party does not resist and is subdued willingly. Even the step of making seal can be omitted. In fact, the boss Pokémon at the level of those 9, after being subdued, the seal will be broken, leaving only a tattoo-like mark on the owner of the seal. Although cones are also needed, but it just so happens that Eminem saw cones in the huge plant in front of him. Many modern trainers don't know cones anymore. After all, human beings have already embarked on the road of mass producing Pokeballs, just like it is not necessary for everyone to grow their own food. However, as a student of Mr. Chumu, Eminem naturally knows cones. Although the cones in front of me are obviously bigger, but it's too late for Eminem to find out why the cones here are so nutritious. If the leader Pokémon is voluntary, you can skip the step of making seal directly and just use the original cone to take a formality point, and after that, the cone will definitely shatter, leaving only 1 to 2 on the body, and this is connected by consciousness. Eminem is 80% sure that it will directly appear on the real self at that time. Even such a sealed boss Pokémon does not take up the quota, just like the legendary Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, nor did they change their main Pokémon just because they subdued the boss Pokémon Dream. This is also limited to the boss Pokémon. According to Mr. Chumu's analysis, the boss Pokémon will sleep deeper in the different space, connected by the Pokéball. At this time, Eminem also did not hide it, and communicated the specific meaning of the relationship he said to the huge fast dragon in front of him through animal senses. Eminem even suspects that it doesn't even know what a Pokeball is. It feels like it's been outdated for a long time. And I haven't heard of anyone containing such a big fast dragon. If it can be done, as long as Eminem returns to his body with consciousness, he can naturally summon a huge fast dragon on the spot. In this way, the time to go to Zenghu Research Institute is saved. Unless it doesn't work for a second. Otherwise, this huge fast dragon should be able to solve it with a wave of its hand. At least it can deter Jinjiu. When the time comes, the crisis will naturally be resolved. A few seconds. Yes. The huge fast dragon also gave his own answer. At that time, you may enter a different space. It is the space connected by normal Pokeballs. Do you always know Pokeballs? Eminem further confirmed. I don't know why, but after Eminem finished asking, the huge fast dragon's reaction was a bit weird. Not like repulsion, just weird. It's okay, you can just connect. After a short silence, the huge fast dragon finally contacted Eminem again, which made Eminem heave a sigh of relief. The meaning expressed by the giant fast dragon is more inclined to connection than seal. Eminem also agrees, since it is voluntary, it is just that the two connect together, and it is not who seals the other. Without further ado, Amu jumped up and bit off a cone from the nearby cone tree. Compared with the size of Ibrahimovic, Amu found that the size of the cone was really too big, bigger than Ibrahimovic. Still big. Seeing this, the huge fast dragon showed a little distressed emotion. I just don't know why, but Eminem always felt that the other party seemed to be looking forward to this kind of connection, so he just felt distressed and didn't stop at the cones don't need to be processed, and it's useless to process them. So what if Eminem took the genuine ghost mask? If the huge fast dragon in front of him is not voluntary, Eminem suspects that, even if he finds the gelatin deity, it may not be useful. At this time, Eminem directly used this cone to form a unique connection with the huge fast dragon in front of him. Take the boss Pokémon. I just don't know why, but the huge fast dragon in front of me didn't disappear directly. Eminem originally thought that he would enter the different space for a while. At the same time, Eminem had no time to think about it. At the moment when, in name, he subdued this huge fast dragon, not only did Eminem feel as if his consciousness was suddenly stuffed into a huge object, and he couldn't hold back all of a sudden, and couldn't maintain it in Ibrahimovic's body, and, at this moment, Eminem still felt occupational impersonation, at this time, has been directly achieved. Beast Tamer. Playing conditions. Become an excellent trainer. Emperor Dan encourages young and successful trainers. If you think you are an excellent trainer, then please think about it first. Have you ever won the championship of the tournament? And have you attracted the beasts to follow? Originally, Eminem thought that only the regional competition champion or following the beast could achieve the performance. But now, Amu suddenly realized that this seemed normal. Probably, it was the will of the world, acquiescing that the huge fast dragon in front of him was on the same level as the divine beast. Right, so you are already considered an excellent trainer. At this time, Eminem didn't have time to think too much, and his consciousness had gradually withdrawn from Ibrahimovic's body, and after Eminem's ghost upper body ended, Ibrahimovic's eyes immediately became fierce, and he raised his head as far as possible in front of him, barely seeing the huge fast dragon at the top, and he also grinned. Yee. Ibrahimovic made a shocking voice to the huge fast dragon. Huge fast dragon. Fortunately, the giant fast dragon ignored it. At this moment, Armu also woke up, only to find that he was being carried. He just left the gate of the research institute. And he looked like he was waiting for something outside. Chapter 250, The Prestige of Brother, Mr. Eminem is awake. Seeing Eminem being carried on the stretcher, Vodka opened his eyes and struggled to sit up, so he reported to Gin Club, "You can continue to lie down obediently, and we will go back to the Carlos area," Jin said, lighting a cigarette for himself. At this time, Armu jumped off the stretcher and asked, "Drive Zhenghu and Dr. Shirley?" As he spoke, Armu looked around, but he did not find the two of them, and of course he did not see other researchers of Zhenghu Institute. "It has nothing to do with you, and you don't want to go back to accompany them," Kin Jiu said coldly. As soon as Armu heard "go back," he turned his head to look at the Zhenghu Research Institute and found that the lights inside were still bright. Let them go right away. Give me back the Pokeball," Eminem said with her head held high. Jin looked at Eminem with eyes like an idiot. "Oh, did I hear you right? Or, the spiritual link experiment, did your IQ be affected by that EV?" He had already crushed the cigarette butt. On the other hand, Armu smiled confidently. "Heh, I wanted to see who your boss is and try the next one. It seems that we can only do it now, Jin." Jiu didn't know what to say, but his eyes drifted to Eminem's bandaged abdomen, as if to say, "You didn't even escape the attack of crazy Ibrahimovic. What are you pretending to be like me?" PFFT. Cough. Cough. "I'm sorry, big brother." Vodka couldn't help laughing out loud. At this time, Kin Jiu drew his sword and said, "No matter what is wrong with your brain, you can either be destroyed here, or come with us to see a doctor." Facing the sword drawn Jin, Eminem was also fearless at this moment, and just touched his stomach. Jin and Vodka thought he was touching the wound, but only Eminem knew that there was just an extra tattoo here. "I originally wanted to see who your boss is as an ordinary trainer. Who knows that you are so cruel and want to kill innocent people indiscriminately, then don't blame me." Armu said that he was very fierce tone of voice. And Jin's patience has also been exhausted at this time. "It seems that you need a little pre-treatment." Jin still didn't give up and tied Armu back. After all, Eminem and Zhenghu are different, not only in potential. Moreover, Zhenghu showed a sense of justice, which made Jin instinctively understand that everyone is definitely not the same person, just like he also instinctively felt that there was something wrong with rye whiskey, but others didn't believe it. And Eminem's reaction now is completely inexplicable. Jin even suspected that it was because of the spiritual link failure that he was out of his mind now. At the same time, Eminem also heard the sound of a helicopter coming from the sky. Several giant helicopters escorted by flying Pokémon were about to stop at this time. Obviously Jin and the others did not want to evacuate by land, but just when Jin gave Vodka a wink, and Vodka was about to instruct the big steel snake to strangle a few bones of Eminem first, I saw Eminem put on the unprinted shape in ninja hand cream in the repaired version of Valley of the End. Senju Bashima is also in this shape. Of course, it doesn't really mean much, it's just to enhance the atmosphere. The essence is that Armu uses the connection with himself at this time, uses the animal senses, and contacts the giant fast dragon. At the same time, the others were just confused, but Kin Jiu's heart skipped a beat with a vague premonition. In the next moment, a large amount of smoke suddenly exploded from around Eminem. When the giant fast dragon appeared, the surrounding fog was filled with thick fog. In fact, when the huge fast dragon shuttled through the space friction between the two spaces was too large, resulting in a dense fog. Unlike ordinary fog, it is not composed of small water droplets. At this time, when Eminem directly summoned the huge fast dragon, the resulting space friction became crisper, that is, a denser but faster white smoke burst out. Vodka and the others still wondered if Eminem had hidden some smoke bombs or Pokémon that could release smoke on his body, but Jin was already alert and released all the Pokémon on his body. After the white smoke in the space dissipated a little bit, the people present also saw that Armu was standing tens of meters higher than before and was in the hands of a huge fast dragon, and more importantly, the huge fast dragon standing in the sea water under the cliff at this time, and Eminem, who was standing at the height of his chest and abdomen, was still 30 to 40 meters higher than before. This is, how can it be? Saw Zorok. Mew didn't dare to delay too much and immediately urged the giant fast dragon to attack. I saw the other dragon claw of the huge fast dragon lifted up and sweep directly on the cliff about the height of his chest and abdomen. Resist with all your strength. Jinjayu had already dispatched all the Pokémon Point Vodka and the others didn't dare to be careless and quickly rushed towards the giant arm and dragon claw that swept over, either launching an attack to counterattack or defending with all their strength. Originally, Eminem was not sure how much stronger this huge fast dragon was than the so-called Big King level Pokémon, but thought it should be stronger, and the scene in front of him at this moment shocked Eminem too. He still doesn't know how big the gap is between the two. He only saw that the huge fast dragon's giant arm and dragon claws, although it bloomed several times, even when it swept to the cliff, it encountered many holding attacks resist, but there is no visible effect at all. It was as if a few mosquitoes flew up to them and a few ants were struggling to resist. With the sweep of the giant fast dragon, the ground where everyone in the flame team was just now fell short. Be it the Pokémon standing on the ground or the Pokémon flying up, they were all involved in this sweep at this time. Even people and Pokémon were swept away without falling. At this time, the helicopter in the air was not only blown by the airflow caused by this sweep, the flight altitude was a little unstable, but the pilot was also completely in a state of bewilderment at this time. Careful. Later, Eminem hurriedly contacted the giant fast dragon. In fact, when I saw this sweeping that seemed to be unimpeded in the face of many attacks, Armu had already instinctively contacted the huge fast dragon. Otherwise Armu was worried, would it directly smash this section of the cliff? Interrupt. When the time comes, the research institute and the lighthouse will fall into the sea together. At this time, Eminem also saw that the other hand of the huge fast dragon was stained with some blood, which looked not like his own wound, but more like the explosion pulp left after killing the bug. Obviously, Eminem's worry about it being merciful is completely unnecessary. To some extent, this huge fast dragon is also too ferocious, completely different from ordinary Pokémon, showing no resistance to killing strange Pokémon and humans. Originally, Eminem was still thinking about whether the Jin was dead, but at this moment, the top floor of the research institute, that is, the third floor, suddenly heard the sound of an explosion. Apparently Team Flare had also installed a bomb in the research institute before, and the reason why it detonated at this time, Eminem suspected that it was to lure himself over, so as not to be chased by this terrifying huge fast dragon. Looks like Jin isn't dead yet. This is also in the arms of Armu. The huge Koalang seems to be unable to support going back, so Armu also pretended to go to the rescue and quickly asked the giant Koalang to put himself on the research institute, and before the huge fast dragon left, he put a light wall on Eminem. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.